The dating game is one of variety and uncertainty. Everyone you encounter has multiple traits that make up who they are: personality, upbringing, career path, financials, living situation, availability, and various other factors may be considered. With a little luck and enough time, a relationship has the potential to flourish with the right person. Of course, this is also dependent on other things. Hypothetically, you might be doing errands one day, only for you to run into a potential love interest. In a different scenario, you may end up putting off those errands, resulting in you spending time with someone else. Life is made up of choices, with a single one setting a series of events into motion. Will you end up making the right decision, or will you take a wrong turn into disaster? Welcome to Shiny Days.
本日はお忙しい中、お集まりいただきありがとうございます。
まずは今回の事態に至った経緯を教えていただき
Hey there. Before I jump into the main portion of the video, there's something I'd like to address. In the comments of my school days video, I received a few very prominent comments in regards to a specific scene. The one in question involves Makoto's friend Taisuke taking advantage of Katsura. The reason I missed it is because I never actually saw that scene in the visual novel. My intention going into the video was to make the anime the main focus, as it arguably received the most attention overall, and was my introduction to the series as a whole. I then discovered that there was a manga, and Cross Days was recommended alongside it, which was a side story I had no prior knowledge of. The visual novel was the last piece of the puzzle, but I only checked out select routes and not the entire contents. Everything was supplementary to the anime, which is why I didn't make the connection between the scenes in each medium. While the visual novel shows Taisuke coercing Katsura into doing something she didn't want, the anime doesn't, alluding to the situation, but never outright showing it. You might be thinking, okay, so what's the big deal? If I was going to make this video now, I would have started with the source, examined it completely, then worked the other parts in. Back then, I was still nailing down a style, was inexperienced, and wasn't sure how seriously I'd be working on content. At this point, I take pride in being as thorough with my breakdowns as possible, and I plan to continue doing my best with this. That said, I still messed up. So to the fans of School Days who noticed the mistake, I apologize. I'd like to properly break down the original visual novel in the future. That way I'll have the full scope. If I screw anything else up, feel free to let me know in the comments. In April of 2005, the video game company Overflow released the visual novel School Days to the general public. This would go on to be their most famous work, being followed by additional entries in the same universe. The first of these would be known as Summer Days, which initially began production in October of the same year. While it would get a decent amount of sales, it wasn't nearly as successful as its predecessor for certain reasons. In fact, the game was apparently met with a lot of backlash at the time. One of the main issues was the state of the game upon release. Nearly a week after Summer Days was out, Overflow realized the software still had numerous issues that needed to be fixed, and most likely received player feedback in regards to this. Apologizing for the error, the company would go on to release patches both physically and digitally for no additional cost to the fans. The first of these had already been issued on their blog the day before the game came out, acting as a hotfix for problems they were aware of. Over the course of a month, 11 patches rolled out to users, making for a total update size of roughly 10 gigabytes. Unfortunately, the biggest setback hit near the end of this process. Overflow went on to make the startling discovery that limited edition versions of the game had uncensored romantic scenes, violating the penal code of Japan. The company was forced to issue a recall, and it would take about 3 months for fans to receive new copies. While it hasn't been confirmed, it was said that as a result of this oversight, half of the employees were let go by necessity. Despite these drawbacks, Summer Days would go on to be ported as a DVD game, as well as a PSP game. On top of the promotional merchandise, Summer Days was later made into a comic anthology, had 2 published art books, and also got adapted into a light novel. A physical soundtrack CD would also be made available alongside the visual novel's release. In March of 2010, Cross Days became the newest entry in the story's universe. While it was far less buggy than Summer Days, it had its own share of problems to deal with. In October of the same year, School Days HQ became the definitive edition of the classic game, remastered and available in North America America for the first time. Almost a year and a half later, Overflow released a remake of Summer Days, known as Shiny Days. Adding an entirely new route with additional endings, this iteration was bigger than ever before. Western players would eventually see the game more than 3 years later, though certain lewd scenes would be noticeably missing. It didn't take long for these to be added back in through a patch, while a different fix would help the game run a bit smoother. Unfortunately, this didn't seem to do much, as Shiny Days continued to annoy players with multiple crashing issues. Thankfully, there's a solution that works extremely well to alleviate this problem, as I was experiencing the same issue. While the game is on, open the Task Manager and go to the Details tab. Then, right-click the program and select Set Affinity. Uncheck all processors and only select a single CPU. While I'd still get an occasional crash, this method quickly fixed everything. So if you'd like to play the game for yourself, hopefully this helps. Though admittedly, there were a few instances where this problem led to some funny moments.
どこか行こうかな。
どこに？
The overall presentation is essentially the same as School Days, featuring animated cutscenes for a majority of the game. CG is also used a few select times, looking about as good as you would imagine. Backgrounds are nicely done in general, giving a good sense of atmosphere to the overall narrative. That said, these aren't always implemented in the best ways. Most of the time, scenes will be shown with a full range of art assets. However, there are other instances when a black screen will be used instead, accompanied by subtitles as the dialogue progresses. This is no doubt due to the overall budget, which is fair considering how many visual sequences there are throughout. While the empty space works well enough here and there, a few sections in the game are especially egregious, spanning for longer periods than what you'd ordinarily expect. I actually found myself wondering if I needed to reset during these parts, as I thought the backgrounds had bugged out. Given how much else there is in the visual novel, I'd say it's forgivable, but it may take a few people out of the experience. Aside from that aspect, the main gameplay is also the exact same as its predecessor. At certain points in the story, the player will have a decision to make. This usually comes down to selecting one of two choices, but occasionally, only one decision will be available. Despite this being the case, Shiny Days carries over the unique option of silence, progressing the narrative in its own way. Depending on what gets chosen, different routes become available, revealing branching paths to multiple endings. Some of these are relatively normal, while others get pretty wild. Initially, the scenes are all new, but when something has been viewed at least once, you're able to fast forward through repeat showings. If a new part comes immediately after, the feature will stop, resuming at normal speed so you don't miss anything. While you can pass through everything outright, the skip button allows you to jump right to decision making, and when you're clearing new routes from scratch, this is a godsend. There's also the option to load for multiple saves, which is useful in a number of ways. Outside of general system features, it's worth mentioning that a SOMCON section is included, which, well, look it up if you're really curious. Our character roster this time around is pretty balanced, keeping similar faces while adding some new ones to the mix. The interesting thing to consider is that none of the crazy events from School Days seem to have happened, as the students are only vaguely aware of each other. As far as I know, Shiny Days is a prequel that leads into the other game, taking place during summer vacation. That said, a few character dynamics actually carry over, such as the bullying that Katsura experiences in class. It'll be easier to talk about the cast as they appear in the story, so I won't say too much on that just yet. Makoto continues to be the leading man, and while he starts out relatively neutral, the player shapes his overall demeanor through their choices, taking the role of female lead as Setsuna Kiora, who some may recognize as Saionji's best friend from the series' previous entry. Embracing both the tsundere and kudere types, Setsuna couldn't be any higher on the best girl tier list. Every decision made in the game directly relates to the meter on top of the screen. Certain choices will increase her affection towards Makoto, while others won't do much of anything. Ultimately, the goal is to help these star-crossed lovers get together. This is easier said than done, as not only are there a multitude of decisions to make, but even one of these can alter the route beyond repair. Still, this isn't necessarily bad, as plenty of other girls are vying for Makoto's attention. What's that? The collective family tree is all kinds of messed up due to previous games? I have no idea what you're referring to. This is a wholesome Christian experience, and I will not stand idly by while it's slandered. Trust me, after spending roughly 60 hours with Shiny Days, I can say it's as worthwhile an adventure as School Days. Of course, individual player experience will differ, and your mileage may vary. Either way, if you'd like some additional context on the series before jumping into this entry, I'll have a card linked with the previous discussion.
This is my my castle.
Upon starting the game, you're given two options on a uniform for Setsuna to wear during certain parts of the narrative. I'm more of a catgirl kind of guy, so for me the choice was obvious. Kicking things off, our journey starts during the character's high school entrance ceremony. Witnessing Setsuna being bullied by a group of guys, Makoto jumps in to break this gathering up. Introducing himself before he goes, the savior's actions result in the girl developing a small crush. Taking place several months ago, the female student continues to think about this event even now. As everyone heads to school, the leading man is seen riding his usual train. Catching a glimpse of a certain girl, the kind-natured Katsura grabs the teen's attention, though it's still a ways off before he decides to confess. Arriving for an assembly, the day concludes with a speech from the principal, sending the students off to enjoy themselves on vacation. Unfortunately for Saionji, her time away from school starts off with an illness. Bedridden for the moment, the friend hopes that Setsuna will be able to help her with something important. Working for a restaurant, the employee's absence causes a bit of a problem, as business is currently ramping up for this season. Knowing how short-staffed they are in general, Saionji hopes that the other girl might be willing to tag in for the moment. Not being a big fan of this kind of work, Setsuna is extremely hesitant to accept the offer. Mentioning various different perks that come with the job, Saionji continues to be met with resistance, until she notes that Makoto's place is in the area. While Setsuna claims to not care, her expression gives her away, becoming slightly interested. Stating that it would still take a bit of work to get there, the girl accidentally outs herself, having looked up the location previously. Using this information as leverage, Saionji claims that a rumor may slip out to someone else if she's not careful. Wanting to prevent this at all costs, Setsuna finally caves, agreeing to do her job for a single day. Shifting over to the beach, another girl has her eye on Makoto. Going by Otome Kato, this childhood friend is more of a tomboy, and her feelings couldn't be any more obvious. Being asked about his overall plan for vacation, this is where the first major choice comes into play, deciding if the player moves to the top route or the bottom. From what I understand, everything on the lower end was originally included with summer days, and the upper section is brand new content made exclusively for shiny days. We'll be starting with the top route, as there isn't much room for deviation, and it'll also provide some important character context for the rest of the story. Stating he wants to go somewhere, Makoto leaves it at that for now, heading to the beach to do some fishing. Moving over to the restaurant known as Radish, Setsuna gets ready to start her new job wearing the player's uniform of choice. It turns out that Saionji's mother Yoko is the manager of the place, grateful that the girl decided to come on such short notice. Going onto the floor, Setsuna meets the other two women she'll be working with. The long-haired waitress, going by Noan, carries herself with confidence and tends to be a bit cunning. The other girl, known as Oruha, has a tendency of being a bit impatient, but is fairly normal on the whole. Learning that her position is actually difficult to acquire, Setsuna is expected to be on top of things, not catching any breaks as the new employee. Starting the day with a simple request, a female customer is looking to get her drink refilled. Making a note of this, Setsuna is then asked by an older woman to bring a parfait for her daughter. Getting distracted, the waitress accidentally combines this order with the earlier one. Putting the request in, Setsuna is then moved to the host position, giving the other girls the chance to dodge a few shady characters. Rather than helping, it becomes clear right away that the veterans want to take advantage where they can. Greeting the seedy individual, it doesn't take long for Setsuna to get hit on. Managing to navigate past this, the worker is called back to the mother's table, being made aware of the mix-up she caused. As a result, she also realizes that the first customer never received her drink, putting Setsuna in an awkward position. Being moved to outdoor cleaning duty, the waitress catches a lot of unwanted attention from the people passing by. Attempting to escape, Oruha is more than aware of what being out front entails, convincing Setsuna to get back to work. Doing her best to ignore the stares of onlookers, the girl doesn't notice the creepy guy from before, getting felt up from behind. Reacting violently to this action, she accidentally knocks a bucket of water onto a pedestrian's head. Noticing the approach of three other women, the waterlogged individual hides behind Setsuna for an unknown reason. Briefly pausing, this trio is another party interested in Makoto. In the center, we have Karin, who's not only assertive and personable, but also the younger sister of Otome. The twins behind her, known as Futaba and Kazuha respectively, aren't very prominent as far as the top route is concerned, so I'll come back to these two later on. As the group takes notice of Setsuna, the mystery girl panics, pulling down the waitress's uniform to cover herself. Understandably angered by this, the worker delivers a knockout blow to the one who exposed her. Bringing the victim inside, the crew isn't sure what to do with the unconscious girl. Taking responsibility, the manager brings the strange person to the hospital while the others get back to work. Closing shop for the day, the veterans have Setsuna clean the balcony as a means of recompense for her interactions. Waiting to hear news on the state of her victim, Setsuna gradually remembers that Makoto's place is nearby. Putting the rough day behind her, the girl decides to make a slight detour before going home. Finding the apartment complex in question, Setsuna takes a quick picture, satisfied with the small victory. Getting ready to head back, she gets cut off by the young girl she served at the restaurant. Amazingly, the child ends up being the younger sibling of Makoto, providing the duo with a chance meeting. Striking up a conversation, it seems that the young man also remembers the day they met, as well as a few other things. Mentioning her job being the reason she's nearby, Setsuna receives a friendly invitation to return to the beach when she's available. Thanks to this remarkable stroke of luck, the girl is on her way to getting closer to the boy she likes. Later that night, Setsuna checks up on Saionji, learning that she isn't doing much better than before. Much worse off than she initially thought, the sick friend somehow contracted a case of the mumps, potentially being out of commission for a few weeks. Setsuna takes it upon herself to continue the job she started. As Saionji's mother returns home, the mystery girl is close behind, appearing to have recovered. Needing a place to stay, the stranger doesn't want to risk catching what Saionji has, so Setsuna reluctantly offers to take her in. Upon arriving, the host has her room stolen right away. Being against this, Setsuna's guilt is taken advantage of as the victim exaggerates her injury. Forced to sleep on the couch, the girl is anything but pleased with the current situation. At the very least, her encounter with Makoto prevents the day from being a total loss. Waking up the next morning, the guest has already gotten familiar with Setsuna's mother, though perhaps a little too much. Finally getting a first name from the stranger, the eccentric girl goes by Inori. Asked for a meal before heading back to the restaurant, Setsuna can see that she's got her work cut out for her. Arriving at the job shortly after, the new employee explains her reappearance, going on to fill in the others on the state of the former victim. Starting her second shift, Setsuna kicks things off with a more headstrong customer. Sitting the individual outside, the waitress receives a warning from Noan, claiming that this particular woman is very hard to please. Returning to the person in question, it immediately becomes apparent that the coworker was telling the truth. Correcting the girl's way of speaking, the customer then goes on to chastise the appearance of the balcony. Wanting information about a certain food item, the woman is again let down by Setsuna's inexperience. Eventually collecting her order, the waitress has become painfully aware of the difficulties that come with handling a service job. As Setsuna gets called by the manager, Noan has the tricky customer passed off to her, not exactly appreciating this turn of events. Asked if Inori is holding up, the worker doesn't really have much to report, more curious about how long the arrangement will last. Finishing up for the day, Setsuna is once again left behind by the others, forced to do a better job on the outdoor cleaning. Spending the day with his sister on the beach, Makoto heads home as the sun sets. Sadly, Setsuna just misses them, concluding a shitty day with disappointment. After calling to check on Saionji, the friend finds her apartment in a messier state than before. Desperate to play any kind of video game, Inori is shocked to learn that Setsuna isn't much for digital entertainment. Wanting to borrow a handheld from Saionji, the guest mentions a stash of comics being the only thing that kept her from going insane. Having sentimental value, Setsuna makes sure to secure the items before leaving the next day. Arriving at her job in a lesser mood, Oruha assumes this is due to the extra work that Noan pushed onto the new girl previously. The small group takes notice of the employee's demeanor, not sure how to address it. Thinking her job performance is getting her down, the manager encourages Setsuna, being met with slight confusion as to where this is coming from. Elsewhere, Inori takes it upon herself to find where Saionji lives. By chance, she happens to run into someone who knows the girl personally. Going by Nikki, the young woman mentions how her, Setsuna, and Saionji grew up together. Grateful for the video games, Inori is forced to play them in secret when given the opportunity. Taken care of by her grandparents, she appreciates how they're always on top of things, even if they dote on her a little too much. Inori then goes on to ask about her roommate, wondering if there's a way for them to get along better. Being a little too blunt for her own good, the girl receives some advice that may help. Saionji also mentions an old childhood friend that Setsuna cared about. Due to his unfortunate passing, she became far more sensitive towards medical issues. Unbeknownst to Inori, the book she found earlier used to belong to the deceased individual. With both of these things in mind, it's no wonder why Setsuna has been more agitated lately. Saionji states that it might be better not to stir up old memories with an apology, though she words this in a strange way. Back at the restaurant, Noan surprises the new employee by offering to do the outdoor cleaning herself. Taking her up on this, Setsuna finally gets the chance to head to the beach. Finding Makoto talking with Otome, the girl doesn't want to interrupt, but Ataru brings attention to the newcomer. Being introduced to Setsuna, the tomboy wonders if this chance meeting isn't a little too convenient. Taking her leave, Makoto explains that she was trying to convince him to help with preparing a local festival. Thanks to Setsuna showing up at the right right time, he got let off the hook, at least for a little while. Convinced the two teens had been flirting, Makoto assures the girl that that's impossible, joking that his health may be in danger if he tried anything funny. Being teased by Setsuna, the young man can't help but find her casual attitude to be somewhat charming, claiming that she feels too stressed to agree. The girl is surprised when Makoto correctly guesses that she's having issues at home. Learning about her circumstances, the teen suggests properly sitting down with Inori to better understand what's going on. Shocked that she was able to talk with Makoto so easily, Setsuna is glad she was able to get some things off her chest. Going their separate ways, the girl runs into Sayanji's mom on the way home, told that the friend needs more time to recover. As Setsuna's mother joins the group, the daughter explains her plan of action, earning the woman's approval. Returning home, the host finds an unexpected extra hanging out in the living room. While they used to be close friends, Setsuna isn't the biggest fan of Nikki's more adventurous lifestyle, not spending much time with her these days. Getting an example of this right away, Nikki tries to bring the clueless Inori into a shady business practice. Unexpectedly, the guest isn't amused by this proposition, turning her down rather forcefully. Confidently declaring her way of life, the girl's surname is finally revealed. Meeting similar resistance from Setsuna, Nikki decides to take her leave for the night. Going off her previous statement, the host inquires if Inori went on a personal journey for someone she's interested in. Being half right, the guest has something else she wants to accomplish first. Pointing out her constant distractions and lack of resources, Setsuna pokes a lot of holes in the eccentric girl's plan. Assuring Inori that she's trying to help, the teen shows concern, but also knows a solution will free up the apartment again. The next morning, Setsuna wants to take their roommate somewhere else, dispelling her lingering sense of hesitation. The two are driven by Radish's manager to the restaurant, allowing the new employee to keep a closer eye on Inori. The other girls take notice of these happenings, unsure what to make of them. Working outside, Setsuna is eventually greeted by Otome, accompanied by another girl going by Yamagata. This is another childhood friend of Makoto, and like the twins, won't be mentioned much in the top route. The encounter is relatively brief, with the duo taking their leave after a bit of small talk. Called over to a table by Itaru, Setsuna has a more cordial encounter with the girl's mother. Losing track of Inori, the manager informs the waitress that her mother stopped by earlier to take her home. Heading to the beach, it seems that Makoto is nowhere to be found, until he appears from behind with a fresh batch of fish. Mentioning the encounter with his sister at Radish, Setsuna reveals that she works for the restaurant in question. Being told not to visit, Makoto teases the girl, wondering if he should swing by regardless. Parting ways, Setsuna returns home, learning that Inori's grandma came by to visit. While still in the manager's office, the guest supposedly used a phone to contact the older woman. Mentioning a location to meet, Setsuna's mother brought her there, not expecting a wave of people to form around them. Putting this oddity aside, a more formal meeting is scheduled for them to talk at the apartment the next day. Preparing some food, Setsuna admires a gift she received from Makoto. Collecting too many fish, the young man gave her one to take home. Unexpectedly, the real prize came after, as Makoto offered his phone number in case she wanted help with the item later on. Catching the eye of the eccentric girl, Inori is determined to make it a meal as soon as possible. The following morning, it seems the meeting location was changed to Radish, with the manager offering to give them a ride over. On the way, Inori eats the fish that was prepared especially for her, enjoying it immensely. Realizing that Setsuna sacrificed her sleep to get it ready, the companion appreciates the effort. Arriving at the restaurant, the new employee learns that the entire place has been rented out for a special occasion. Watching the dining area fill up with old people, the sight is uncommon to say the least. A good amount of the local community tends to avoid Radish, especially after a certain rumor got spread around. Apparently, a former employee got romantically involved with one of their own a while back, spurring a boycott that's going on even now. This coincides with their current customer base, making the large reservation a very strange occurrence. Standing in front of the group, Inori starts to give a speech, mentioning a plan to reclaim a certain shrine. Knowing Radish will make for a perfect secret base, she wants the old folks to put the former incident behind them, being met with nothing but support. Not having a clue what's going on, Setsuna finishes the shift with more questions than answers. Making a slight detour, the two girls head to the beach at Inori's request. However, noticing that Makoto and Karen are in the area, she decides it's better if they head home instead. Familiar with the Kato sisters, Inori is wary of them for an unknown reason. Called outside by someone, it turns out that Otome had been looking for her specifically. Expecting to be reprimanded, the runaway is hugged instead, with the sister wanting to know what's going on. Giving the two an opportunity to catch up, Setsuna heads elsewhere for the time being. Talking with Sayanji about the situation, the friend is surprised that people from the area know Inori given the luggage she has with her. Regardless, with the appearance of Otome, it seems likely that the traveler will be on her way sooner than later. Getting a call from Nikki, Setsuna alerts that she was the one who gave Inori's location away. Wanting to know more about what's going on, the tipster is bluntly refused. Coming back to the apartment, Otome seems a little agitated by a recent development, wanting more info from Setsuna later on. Committed to using the place for her own agenda, Inori isn't going anywhere just yet. Thanking Setsuna for the fish she prepared earlier, it reminded her of a childhood friend she used to know. Waking up the next morning, Inori decides it would be best to keep a low profile at home. Unfortunately for her, the elders come by to visit, enthusiastic about the plan they've set in motion. Leaving the group to their own devices, Setsuna heads back to the restaurant. Wondering if the other girls may know about Inori and Otome's relationship, Oruha chimes in with something noteworthy. Overhearing the manager talking with the problematic customer, they both exchange information related to the sizable gathering at Radish. With this in mind, it's possible that the woman may be able to inform Setsuna on what's going on. Getting the chance to talk later on, the waitress inquires about Otome, but gets told about her father by mistake. Warning the girl not to get too involved in the matter, the customer ends the conversation there. At the very least, Setsuna now knows that Otome is a little more important than she initially thought. Being visited by the girl in question, the worker is told that Inori apparently holds a grudge against her. Pressed about the action that was committed, Setsuna can only apologize in defense. Thinking they're on the same page, Otome brings up an outrageous rumor that throws off the accused. Finally getting to the bottom of things, it seems that there's been a huge misunderstanding. Confronting Inori later that night, Otome thoroughly disciplines the one who deceived her. Embarrassed by how gullible she was, the tomboy is forgiven by Setsuna, thankful the misconception has been cleared up. Reiterating an earlier statement, Inori claims to have left for her own reasons, doing her best to keep the excursion a secret. Learning that the old folks of the community have been acting on their own, Otome claims that she'll do her best to fix the situation that's developed. Inviting the tomboy to stay overnight, Inori continues to bring more people into the small living space. Heading to bed, Otome mentions how she's the cousin of the eccentric girl, making her concern a little more understandable. Expecting a regular visit, the family member was at a loss after Inori suddenly vanished. Revealing a more personal issue, Otome explains how the house guest will be getting a new mother soon. Making a child before the actual ceremony, the girl essentially had a falling out with her father, resulting in the current mess. Calling the shrine home, the plot to reclaim ownership now makes a little more sense. Inviting Setsuna to help with festival preparations, Otome wants to keep a close eye on the overall proceedings, hoping the event can help the family members to reconcile. The following morning, the cousin gives a few more details on the power struggle going on as a result of the remarriage. Stepping outside in secret, Otome divulges a theory as to the real reason Inori ran away, which involves tracking down a former love interest and leaving her personal problems behind. It isn't clear if they've managed to meet, or if this plan is even legit, so they leave it alone for the time being. Reuniting with Inori, Otome offers to take her somewhere, being met with a request to visit the local school. Going there, Inori is called out by her cousin, having the validity of certain statements being questioned. Sticking to her story, the girl insists that her mission to retake the shrine is paramount. Dropping her off at the apartment, Otome verifies a plan for Inori to lay low. At the restaurant, Setsuna brings up the gathering of older people a while back, ensuring the others that keeping quiet would be the best course of action. Meeting Makoto on the beach, it seems even he's someone familiar with the locals' opinion of Radish, but doesn't put much stock into the bad rumors. Inquiring about old friends of his from middle school, Setsuna gives the impression that she's looking for a boyfriend. In reality, the girl is trying to narrow down the list of potential people that Inori might be looking for. Spending the evening together, the small group calls it a day as the sun sets. After Setsuna leaves, Makoto notices the girl's phone sitting on the beach, going on to discover a picture of him as the wallpaper. Putting this aside, the teen catches up with her, returning the item to its owner. Going on to ask about the phone, Makoto freezes up, with Setsuna assuming he saw the picture. Instead, he mentions the pattern of her underwear, leaving the girl with a somewhat hollow sense of relief. Running into Yamagata at the train station, Setsuna takes the opportunity to gather more info on the local guys. Seeing the person who's supposedly Otome's boyfriend, she seems to realize something. Taking some time to think about it, Setsuna is more accepting of the romantic side quest. At home, she walks in on Nikki and Inori having a conversation she can't follow. Later talking outside, the host is informed of a rumor involving the two family members, but isn't convinced by the sketchy girl's words. Wondering if harassment could be part of Inori's problems, Nikki feels that it's up to Setsuna to keep her safe. Bringing up her time in middle school, the guest becomes flustered as a round of teasing commences. Revealing the info that was previously secret, Setsuna is met with denial, but there's a bit of hesitation mixed in. Mentioning Otome's boyfriend, boyfriend, the girl can see that the runaway really wants to see him again. Promising to keep it between them, Inari is grateful, appreciating the support. The next morning, the teen makes it clear how serious she is about repaying her kindness. Elsewhere, no one is heading to work, being spotted by the formerly sleazy customer and his friend. As the men hit on her, Oruha becomes the next target as she approaches. Unfortunately for them, the girls aren't exactly friendly towards the would-be suitors, leaving them behind. Brought to work by the manager, Inari is told to wait in the office like usual by Setsuna. Offering to help the waitress with her job, the girl is quickly refused. Over at the beach, one of the employees of Otome's family tries convincing Makoto to help with the festival. Leaving the offer open, the young man then experiences the gossip about Radish firsthand. Wondering if something happened recently, Makoto gets curious, deciding to head there with his sister. It turns out that the man has been telling various people not to go to the restaurant on Otome's orders, with the girl herself doing the same. Under the guise of protecting the locals, she's doing everything she can to keep attention away from Inari in any capacity. On the way over, Makoto is asked by his sister if he's interested in Setsuna, giving himself away as he stutters. Itaru claims that she also likes her, but the teen does his best to change the subject. Back at Radish, the main servers are met with the worst possible combination of customers. No one takes the fussy woman to the balcony, while Oruha gets stuck with the other two undesirables. Setsuna gets far luckier, being met by a pair of friendly faces. Getting them a table, the waitress admits that she was previously curious about the relationships of people that Makoto knew. Being asked for a favor, the teen assumes that he's about to be confessed to. Instead, Setsuna wants to talk with Otome's boyfriend, catching Makoto off guard. Wondering if he can arrange a meeting in secret, the girl is hopeful that Inari can get the reunion she wants. Before getting an answer, Setsuna is caught by no one, being told to attend to other matters. Stopping by the kitchen, the regulars take the time to complain about their respective customers. Tired of dealing with them, the girls decide to pass the responsibility off on Setsuna. Overhearing this conversation, Inari takes notice of their unfair treatment. In the midst of this, Makoto is left disappointed that he wasn't the one Setsuna was interested in. Tending to the woman on the terrace, the waitress in question is dealing with another round of verbal abuse. This continues at the next table, as Setsuna gets hit on with no hesitation. Coming inside, the girl is forced to continue attending to them, not being given a choice. Again listening to the two employees push her friend around, Inari decides that it's time to take action. Already being met with complaints upon returning, Setsuna braces for the next list of demands as she walks away. Presenting the men with their order, the waitress gets surprised as one of them flips her skirt up. Unfortunately, this causes her to launch a drink right on top of the agitated woman. Aggressively approached by the sleazy customers, things couldn't be any worse right now. That is, until Inari takes a broom and launches an assault against the two pickup artists. They're not the only ones in the line of fire, as even the older woman becomes a target of the girl's weapon. At a loss for words, Setsuna can only look in amazement at the support being offered. As the concerned manager steps outside, Inari declares herself a vigilante of justice. Unbeknownst to her, the woman that made things difficult was doing it on purpose, as it was her job to survey how the restaurant operates. Recognizing the violent girl's name, the men realize they're essentially dealing with a local celebrity. Making things worse, Inari knows exactly who they are, despite their current flashy getup. Still thinking about Setsuna, Makoto breaks out of his trance as he notices Itaru heading for the terrace. Satisfied with herself, Inari is grateful she got the chance to make things right. Mentioning the guy she wanted to see, Setsuna is met with confusion. Being interrupted, Inari is greeted by someone she hasn't seen in a while. Following close behind, Makoto comes out, immediately recognizing his old friend. As Setsuna looks over, it becomes abundantly clear who Inari really cares about. Unable to handle the pressure, the nervous girl runs away, leaving the others behind. Catching back up with her, Setsuna bears witness to her friend's embarrassment. Being completely honest now, Inari's only goal was to see Makoto again, hoping it would give her the strength to deal with what's going on at home. While Otome may have known him since middle school, the house guest has been around the love interest for much longer. Dropping a bombshell, Inari states that Makoto is actually the girl's fiance, a decision made when the two were still kids. Checking on Saionji, Setsuna is a bit discouraged, realizing she had started to like Makoto herself. Having her own feelings for him, the sick friend tries to downplay this development, hoping her chance will still come. Unfortunately, Setsuna already has plans to accompany him to the shrine to work on festival preparations. Further killing Saionji's motivation, she learns about his situation with Inari. The following morning, Setsuna is reintroduced to the sleazy customers, now reformed after the thrashing they took at the restaurant. Staying home for the moment, Inari plans to rethink her strategy with the old folks. As a result of their parents wanting forgiveness for the two getting on the girl's bad side, the men are now doing everything everything they can to get back in her good graces. Going by Ryuji and Toma, it seems the pair will be a lot less trouble going forward. Being woken up by his sister, Makoto gets a request that he's not too fond of, as Setsuna still lingers in his mind. Itaru assumes that Inari will be at Radish like before, but the brother isn't in the mood to go anywhere. Observing the duo dropping Setsuna off, the others get filled in on the men's new sense of duty. Thinking more on the previous conversation, Inari mentioned how the unofficial engagement is something a number of parties want to see happen. With Makoto's father being in charge of a prominent hospital, the elderly figured that the son would be a perfect match for the daughter of the shrine. Being very strong-willed in her younger days, Inari's playmate brought her out of this state of mind. Not liking him at first, the girl was more antagonistic towards the boy, aggravated by her weak constitution that kept her in the hospital. Bringing up the fish that Setsuna had made before, the preparation reminded Inari of when Makoto did the same for her years back. Wanting Setsuna to do some reconnaissance, the house guest is hoping to learn more about the current person her love interest has become. Agreeing to at least get things going, the friend will leave the finale up to Inari. Getting a call from Otome, the waitress informs her that due to certain circumstances, the runaway won't be at Radish for a while. Needing to figure out a way to sneak Inari into the shrine alone, the girls are left to figure out a plan. As Otome and Setsuna head off together after work, the other employees take advantage of the men waiting to give a free ride. Visiting Makoto on the beach, the tomboy again tries to get him to volunteer at the shrine, being met with the same resistance as usual. However, when Itaru asks to look around, his defense starts to weaken. Discovering that Setsuna is going to help, Makoto gets curious as to the reason why. Still hung up on her former request, he gets annoyed learning that the guy she inquired about will be there as well. Making up an excuse to get away, the brother takes his sibling elsewhere. Being introduced to the person in charge of the festival, Setsuna gets her first glimpse at Inari's soon-to-be parent, Natsuhi Ebata. Deciding to head to the shrine for Itaru's sake, Makoto runs into the guy that Setsuna is supposedly interested in. However, as the teen witnesses a direct refusal from him to work with other female company, the brother wonders if he had the wrong idea. After he leaves, the aggravated guy notes how the other boys in the area aren't fans of Makoto, as he ends up being quite popular with the ladies. Gee, I can't imagine why they would be worried about that. Catching up with Setsuna, Makoto gives her a hand with the festival work. Shifting to a different part of town, Setsuna's mother meets with the former manager of Radish, Shun Hazama. Relaying a message from the current woman in charge, the man has been requested to take over while they're overseas for business. Hearing about the situation involving Inari, Shun is amused by certain aspects of his past coming together. I'll get more into this a little later. Over at the shrine, Makoto has lightened up considerably, showing Setsuna around the place. Curious about the girl's grandmother, the teen makes a bit of a misstep in the conversation, relieved when he's met with a calm reaction. Leaving rather suddenly, the two decide to visit the woman's grave after Makoto brings up the idea. Taking the opportunity to break the news of his acquaintance's girlfriend, Setsuna doesn't seem to care much, confirming what the teen had been thinking. The next day, Noan comes by with the taxi duo, picking Setsuna up for work after realizing how useful they are. Ready for the shift, there isn't much to do, as everyone is busy making preparations for the local celebration. Doing her part later that night, Setsuna gets a bit worried as Makoto questions where Inari's been since their encounter at Radish. Catching the attention of Natsuhi, the woman has a few inquiries of her own. Thankfully, not much info is found out, though it still leaves the runaway in a tricky situation. That said, it seems that Inari has something in mind to take care of Natsuhi, once again asking for Setsuna's help. Heading to work the following day, the girls notice a certain someone speed past them on the road. Meeting them in the restaurant, Shun takes his place as temporary head of the establishment. Starting the shift, the new manager tries getting Setsuna's attention, only for her to coldly brush him off as she goes outside. Running into Makoto, it appears that he's lifted the personal boycott on the restaurant. Trying to talk him out of coming inside, Setsuna is interrupted by the person she's doing her best to avoid. Making a bit of small talk, Shun is friendly towards the two, encouraging them to spend a little more time together. Joking about her being interested in the older man, Makoto couldn't be met with a more blunt response. Regardless, the teen doesn't have a bad opinion of him, appreciating his relaxed demeanor towards the employee. As the topic of fathers comes up, it seems they share an opinion of general distaste. Elsewhere, Otome gets a call from Inari, confirming the delivery of a certain item. Unfortunately, she gets caught by a family associate right outside of Setsuna's place. Apparently, Natsuhi managed to narrow down where Inari is currently staying, sending someone to track the old folks right to her. Trying to think up an excuse for her appearance, she's saved as a friend of hers walks by. Offering to stand watch in the man's absence, the associate is directed to drive the girl home. Successfully dodging suspicion, Otome wonders how long they'll be able to keep this up. Parting Parting ways with Setsuna, Makoto gets ready to take his sister back to their dad's place. With the parents being divorced, the siblings only get so much time together. Finishing work for the day, the waitress again acts coldly towards the temporary manager. Being invited out, Setsuna is less than enthusiastic about the proposal. Using a coworker's going away party as an excuse to dodge him, the girl manages to get Oroha's help in keeping Shun from joining. Asking Noan about Makoto, the man learns that he and Setsuna have been going to the shrine lately, making the connection to Inari's appearance. Having a small gathering on the terrace, the workers are seeing off their most veteran member, Sonico. If I may pause for a moment, you may recognize this character as Super Sonico, mascot of the visual novel company Nitro Plus. I imagine this was a collaborative effort, as the girl and her fictional band produced one of the ending songs. I can't speak for Summer Days, but this could have been an exclusive deal made for the remake. She's also been showing up throughout the narrative, but as she doesn't add anything story-wise, I left her out for the sake of brevity. Jumping onto the scene, Inari sings a unique song she wrote for the departing coworker, leaving the girl speechless. Elsewhere, Shun decides to make a bold move, heading straight for the lion's den. Walking right up to Natsuhi, the man is immediately met with hostility. Reminiscing on days long past, Shun can't help but be slightly facetious towards the one giving him a death stare. Making a small request of the woman, he tries to use their past relationship as leverage before leaving. Okay, so here's where elements from previous entries come into play. In the prequel game Summer Radish Vacation, Shun, acting as the protagonist, gets romantically involved with a number of different women. Being quite the playboy, he's the father of Saionji, the twins mentioned before, and even Roka from Cross Days. That said, he and Natsuhi also got together and had a kid. This particular child just so happens to be Inari. Being unable to care for the child, Natsuhi left her at the shrine, adopted by the man she's now about to marry. As far as I know, she doesn't even realize that Inari is the same child from back then. There's one other secret about Shun that I won't say just yet, but it should be obvious by the end if it isn't already. With the man's speech having the opposite desired effect, Natsuhi is ready to bring Inari home once and for all. Not realizing that he's only made things worse, Shun leaves feeling quite satisfied. Moving to where Otome is stationed, Natsuhi gets ready to head inside to where Inari and the old folks are. Forcing her way into Setsuna's place, the woman is met with denial from the occupants as she searches the area. Not finding the one she's looking for, Natsuhi sends a few others over to check the restaurant, remaining in the apartment for the time being. Not having any luck there, the one in charge is determined to hold her position as she waits for new developments. Unbeknownst to her, Inari has another connection thanks to her encounter with the undercover customer from Radish. I'm not exactly sure when they made this arrangement, though it could have been a request from the manager or Setsuna's mom, as all three of them are friends behind the scenes. Being let in by the woman's two daughters, Inari informs him of the important ritual dance she needs to practice for, using the large home to her advantage. Needing a third person to complete the performance with her and Setsuna, the final member is revealed to be the original best girl, Katsura. Practicing all night, the other two dancers are exhausted by the time the sun rises. Over at the apartment, Natsuhi has her hand forced, as waiting all night yielded no results. Being sneaky about their retreat, the woman intends to have Otome keep watch in case anything new happens. As the old folks talk amongst themselves, they're not shaken by the encounter, as a trump card still remains hidden. Driving Inari elsewhere, Ryuji tells his friend how he caught Oroha's boyfriend cheating at Radish, proceeding to beat him up out of anger. Getting busy shortly after this fight, the man went on to become her new boyfriend. Wanting to consult Inari on this development, the two are shocked to find the girl nearly passed out in the back seat. Refusing to get medical attention, she instead wants to return to Setsuna's place. Successfully making it back, the elder group stands by as Otome tends to Inari. Meanwhile, Makoto comes back from dropping his sister off, visiting Setsuna at Radish. Observing the two teens, Shun continues to be curious about their relationship. Bringing the customer a free parfait, the manager hopes to get the info he's looking for. Being told they're lovers, Shun is glad that Setsuna found someone reliable, getting a swift kick for meddling. Inviting her back to the shrine, Makoto takes his leave. Getting ready to check the restaurant again, Natsuhi plans to head over alone to avoid drawing attention. Calling the twins over, she instructs them to trade places with Otome to give her a break. Told the situation, the girls aren't sure how effective they'll be, but they agree to take the job. Walking nearby, Makoto runs into Katsura's little sister, Kokoro. Learning that she wants to apply to be a part of the festival dance, the young man decides to go with her to ask the person in charge. Arriving at the station, the twins aren't sure where to go next until they get mistakenly recognized by Nikki. Guiding them to the location they're looking for, the three go inside, discovering Inari in a more weakened state. Back at the shrine, Kokoro is politely refused, as everything is already in motion for this year's festival. Declaring that her sister coworker is involved. Natsuhi doesn't recognize the person's name. Insisting that she's telling the truth, Kokoro drops the name of the girl who chose Katsura to dance. Revealing the trio of performers, everyone is surprised. As the sister mentions Otome, she arrives just in time to get questioned. Sending a warning text to Setsuna, the girl knows the gig is just about up. Before she can think, the accomplice runs into Yamagata, who offers to come with her to the shrine. Remembering the message, Setsuna manages to slip away before getting caught up in something undesirable. Calling her place, the girl instructs the older folks to prepare themselves. Managing to recover, Inari tells the others not to mention her condition to Setsuna. Contacting no one, it seems that another sentry is waiting to intercept them at Redux. Cutting the group off further, Natsuhi comes with Kokoro to look around her house. Meeting with Katsura by the beach, Setsuna relays the current situation, not sure what to expect at this point. Learning that Otome is involved somehow, Katsura refuses to do anything else, as she doesn't want to dedicate time to the person bullying her in class. Running into Noan, the coworker was watching out for Setsuna just in case things went south. Not sure where they can hide Inari now, Makoto shows up by chance to save the day. Going back to his place, Noan convinces the young man to let Inari stay there until the festival. While in Makoto's room, Setsuna encourages her friend to properly talk with him now, but she plans to take it one step further. Knowing about their shared feelings, Inari wants to spend at least one night with the person she loves. Not knowing who Makoto truly cares about, the girl is conflicted on how to approach things. Regardless of what happens, she's determined to be honest with herself and at least try. Adding more urgency, Inari will be undergoing surgery soon, so she wants to be intimate with Makoto while her personal body image is still positive. Over at the shrine, Otome apologizes to her sister for keeping the operation a secret. Thinking about her past, the girl initially wasn't a fan of Inari and her headstrong attitude. Eventually, Makoto came into the picture, hanging around the hospital a lot due to his parents. For some reason, the two kids ended up fighting a lot, leaving Otome to break them up, and gradually got closer to both of them. Currently unable to contact Setsuna, the two can only hope that things manage to work out. Outside of Makoto's place, Noan gets filled in on everything Inari's dealing with, including the teen upstairs. Reading right through her, the coworker knows that Setsuna has her own thoughts about the same person. Being a little too direct, Noan strikes a nerve, learning how serious her friend is. Unsure of the potential relationship in place, Setsuna can't bring herself to get involved. Consoled by Noan, the girl regrets the situation she now finds herself in. Inside, Makoto thinks back on his forgotten time with Inari at the hospital. Much like Otome's recollection, the kids are energetic here as well. Having had quite a sense of self-importance, Makoto's ego was taken down a notch after learning what family Inari belonged to. The boy then decided it would be better to team up, proposing marriage to his rival. The two agreed, cementing their plan for a powerful future together. Remembering everything, Makoto becomes retroactively embarrassed, amazed by how he used to act. Interrupting these thoughts, Inari walks over from the other room, going on to ask a number of questions. Wondering if the teen forgot about her, Makoto confesses that he did, as it's been a while since their last meeting. Feeling this absence was part of a plot orchestrated by Natsuhi, Inari confirms the good fortune of her ending up here. Providing an answer on the nature of their relationship, Makoto still considers the girl to be a good friend. Inari tries to push things further, but the dense individual doesn't take the hint. Wanting a reward after the festival dance, the friend is granted this at the very least. Leaving the interaction a little closer, it's not quite what the girl had in mind. Elsewhere, Shun chases away the people that were stationed at Redux, running into Noan along the way. Understanding the situation, the girl offers to fill him in for a ride home. Stopping at Setsuna's place, Noan directly confronts Natsuhi about a certain issue that's come up. Apparently, Oruha and Ryuji had been apprehended by the shrine's associates, making the girl furious with everyone involved. Successfully getting them released, Noan takes her leave. Telling them all that Inari wants nothing more than to accomplish a personal goal, the friend wants her to be free of the expectations weighing her down. Content with her speech, Noan accidentally brings up Setsuna to the wrong person. Regardless, the words have their desired effect, forcing both groups to reflect on their actions and give Inari space. The next morning, Setsuna mentally prepares herself as she joins Makoto and the other friend for a meal. Met by the two drivers, it seems that Natsuhi kept her word after all. Brought to Redux, Shun is accommodating towards Inari. Thanks to Noan, not only can they safely spend the day here, but the performers can also get in some additional practice for the festival. Unfortunately, there's still the issue of Katsura's absence to deal with. Managing to get a hold of Otome, Setsuna does her best to convince her that they need the missing girl for the dance. Trying to think of another solution, the two are shut down by Inari, who's dead set on including Katsura. Deciding they'll need a mediator, the group settles on Makoto to help with their predicament. apartment. As Otome leaves to get him, Inari confesses her failure to Setsuna, now having a stronger feeling that the love interest has already been taken. Presented with excuses for the refusal, the runaway remains discouraged that she's only seen as a friend. Hearing her cough, Setsuna immediately becomes worried, but gets reassured that it's nothing serious. Mentioning the agreement she has with Makoto, Inari needs to finish the dance, as it's her key to staying close to him. This may prove tricky, as the girl collapses after Setsuna goes inside, but rights herself shortly after. Over at the shrine, Makoto is approached by his old acquaintance, explaining his assembly of a rather interesting device. Worried about the chick magnet stealing his new girlfriend, the teen is assured that his rival already has someone else in mind. Stating that he's interested in Inari, Makoto earns the other guy's respect, diffusing the antagonistic encounter. Approached by Otome later on, the teen finds out he's needed for a complicated issue. Shifting to Katsura's house, the girl is being hounded by her sister to get ready for the festival. Despite not wanting to go, she can't help but entertain the idea of Makoto taking her. Amazingly, the person in question shows up at her door, apologizing with the other girl she isn't too fond of. Relaying Inari's message, Makoto hopes that Katsura will rejoin the group, being met with a response right away. Bringing her back to Radish, everything is now in place for the performance. Confirming their battle plan, the team will make sure the intended dancers stay trapped inside their respective building, giving Inari the opportunity to rush the stage, followed by the other two. Taking point, the leader wants Makoto to come along as support on the front lines. With Shun giving rides to everyone, he looks to Setsuna for some type of reward. Hesitating a decent amount, the girl eventually shows gratitude to her father. There you go, that was the twist. I'm sure everyone is surprised. Arriving at the shrine, the girls are anxious, but they're confident that Inari will manage to pull it off. Talking about the leader, Setsuna realizes how close they've become, despite the rocky start they had. Thanking Shun for his assistance, Inari assures the man that his daughter cares about him even if she doesn't always say so. Using a rather creative disguise, the teens make their way deeper in. Naturally, it doesn't take long before they get spotted, alerting Natsuki to their presence. Encouraging the leader, Makoto gives her a pep talk, standing by to support her as she makes her grand appearance. Jumping in front of the crowd, Inari surprises everyone as she comes out of hiding. The girl does her best to announce the performance, but she's fading fast, not having much time left to act. Nearly collapsing as she continues, the daughter is caught by her new mother, who finishes the speech and directs the crowd to the dance hall. Shocking Inari, Natsuki is willing to let her continue the performance like she wanted. Ready to help, the old folks bring the girl's medication, and Makoto's mother stands by with her experience as a nurse. Comforted by the young man, Inari has everything she needs to make this ceremony a success. Waiting for the performance to start, the parents are glad that things managed to work out. Recalling what was told to him in the car, Shun is plenty satisfied to have helped both of his daughters. That said, settling down still isn't something he's considering just yet. Shifting their attention to the stage, the dance is completed, finishing the mission. Following the performance, Inari waits alone for Makoto. Requesting the thing we were all expecting, the girl is looking to properly bond with the person she cares about. Thanks to Inari's stable constitution, as well as some outside approval, the two are ready to get busy. Starting a different kind of ceremony, the pair does their business right there on the floor. Cementing their love, the new couple is ready to share a future together. With that, the main path of the top route draws to a close. I have to say, I certainly wasn't expecting a wholesome story to come out of this game. It takes a while for Inari to come out of her shell, but she ends up being a pretty fun character in general. Regardless of what she does, her antics make for a good time. Having said this, while the overall narrative is decent, getting through it is a bit of a slog. It took me roughly 7.5 hours to finish it, with plenty of scenes being cut for the sake of brevity. There is a lot of fluff here, but this is a visual novel, so I can't say I didn't expect the length. Despite that, I'd still say there's a lot of unnecessary parts, but that's just my personal take. I also think some of the characters are presented better elsewhere, but we'll get there soon enough. Before we move on, you may be curious what the other paths lead to. Some of these extra endings are relatively simple, while others prove to be more interesting. To start with, the Kagura offering actually takes up 2 points on the end of the chart. The main ending leads to 1, while 2 additional variations lead to the second, as they end the same but have different scenes. The main change takes place when Inari talks with Makoto while staying overnight with him. If your choices are less geared towards Setsuna, the two will have the same discussion in his room rather than the living room. Stating that he doesn't want to think too much about his younger days, Inari wonders if this applies to her as well. Refuting this claim, the duo agrees that their time together is worth remembering. Conflicted by the memories involving his dad, Makoto finds comfort in knowing that his companion deals with the same issue. Revealing some additional lore, Inari mentions that she used something else as a means of making her way here. The girl was supposed to visit her father and come back, but let him know about her mission before disappearing. Wanting to know what Makoto thinks of her, this time, he gives Inari the answer she was hoping for. Stating he never forgot about the promise they made, the girl couldn't be more thrilled by this development. Being straightforward, Inari is looking to bond with him before the ceremony. Declaring their love for each other, the two get busy, enjoying the romantic moment together. Talking with Setsuna at the restaurant, Inari is quite satisfied with the outcome. Not familiar with the concept of love, the friend informs the fiancé that her desires aren't a bad thing. Receiving full support from Setsuna, Inari smiles brightly. Just before the dance, the two banter a little, feeling more relaxed as an established couple. The other version of this involves making slightly different decisions, with the important conversation happening back in the living room. Giving a more positive response, Makoto assures the girl that he didn't forget about her. Having a similar discussion, Inari is a little more forceful in making her request. Pushing Makoto to the ground, the fiancé is ready to use questionable advice that she got from Nikki, referenced earlier in the main story. Using her feet, Inari gets intimate with her lover in a different way. Thanks to this, their relationship is transformed into a bond shared between a master and her servant. Feeling quite confident after this encounter, Setsuna is confused to learn that sex wasn't involved. Displaying the technique she used, the fiancé doesn't quite have all the pieces in place. Shattering the illusion she had, Setsuna corrects the friend on her definition of intimacy. Anxious that she may lose Makoto, Inari is told not to worry so much. The pep talk at the shrine has changed as well, shocking the others as the two openly talk about the reward waiting afterwards. I laughed pretty hard at this scene, not gonna lie. Both this and the former iteration end immediately after the dance, which leaves us with the extra endings outside of the main route. Way back during one of the earlier encounters with Setsuna, Makoto has to explain what Otome was talking with him about on the beach. Instead of saying it was for festival reasons, the teen can lie and claim that she was hitting on him. Leaving early, the girl returns home, rushing past the house guest to lock herself in her room. Thinking it was stupid to have a crush on such a popular guy, the summer prematurely ends with heartbreak. Near the end, Makoto needs to bring his sister home after hanging out with Setsuna at Redux. Rather than taking the train back, you can instead decide to visit the shrine. Running into Otome's sister, Makoto explains that he's visiting so Itaru can see her friends one last time. Later asked about his relationship with Setsuna, the teen clarifies that they're only friends, being met with dismissal by Shun. Told to get out after he's finished with the parfait, Makoto doesn't get the chance to offer his invitation. The scene then cuts to Nikki standing outside of Setsuna's place, showing a flashback of her time with Saionji. It turns out that the adventurous girl is a bit lonely, wishing things could be like they were in the past. Being told a secret by the sick friend, we get our first glimpse of the girl's feelings towards Makoto. Mentioning how Setsuna liked him but hung back, Saionji is more selfish in her approach, wanting to take the love interest for herself. Wondering who his current fiancé is, Nikki is surprised to learn that it's Inari. Deciding to confirm this information, the girl meets the runaway while she's still recovering. Taking place before she's able to personally talk with Makoto, Inari encourages Otome to get together with him. Leaving the room, Nikki is told that this happens all the time, despite her own feelings. Running into the twins, the girl gets directions to Redux. Calling their third sister Hanan over, the two friends are left to their own devices. Having been occupied with other business, the busy individual reluctantly goes inside with Nikki. Upon entering, Setsuna greets them, not exactly thrilled by the visit. Getting right to the point, Nikki wants to know if the waitress plans to get with Makoto. Encouraging her not to hold back, the girl states that Inari would approve of Setsuna jumping in. Heavily exaggerating the friend's condition, Nikki doesn't realize that her words are having an unintended effect. Lunging forward, Setsuna demands to know what's going on, receiving another concerning report. Rushing out of work, the waitress heads home as fast as she can. Getting the desired info from Hanan, not only is Makoto in demand, but he also isn't seeing anyone currently. Revealing her plan, Nikki is purposefully sabotaging Saionji's chances with her crush, which in turn will keep her open for hanging out. Hoping the friend could instead date her brother, Hanan suggests having her get personally involved for a better result. As the two girls continue scheming, Setsuna sees the rough condition of Inari for herself. Forgetting her medicine, the runaway confesses that her constitution is a lot worse than she lets on. Being told about the nature of her friend's old comics, Inari already knows how worried Setsuna must be in this situation. Refusing to let the weak individual go to the festival, the girl plans to stay with her, not wanting to lose someone else she cares about. A similar ending starts from the restaurant conversation, as Hanan recalls that she got Makoto's number after meeting him on the train. Watching his phone ring, the teen zones out, missing the call. Making a huge leap in logic, the girls assume that Makoto must have other preferences if he won't answer. Jumping to the start of the next school semester, the lazy guy is disappointed disappointed by the uneventful summer. The final group of endings involve a few other girls taking Makoto for themselves, with the first of these featuring Katsura. When the teen is asked by the acquaintance who he likes, if neither selection is chosen, then the original crush will be mentioned. Despite his optimism, Makoto knows how unlikely it is that he'll run into her by chance. However, thanks to Otome, his luck couldn't be any better. Executing the ceremony plan, Setsuna takes point instead of Makoto, leaving him to walk to the shrine with Katsura. Waiting for the next train, the two enjoy their time together, becoming more familiar as they get on a first-name basis. Discussing their approach, the duo decides to take advantage of the confusion to slip into position more effectively. Thinking about having fun at the festival, they hold off on the idea, though Makoto takes the opportunity to plan for the next event. Running into Otome on the way over, the tomboy does her best to hold back the jealousy she feels towards Katsura. On the front lines, Setsuna wonders if they shouldn't check the other area before charging ahead, but Inari wants to stick to the grand plan she's created. Killing time until the others are ready, Makoto learns that they both noticed each other during their regular train rides. Initially not a big fan of being forced to help with the dance, Katsura realized how much she enjoyed it only after losing the responsibility. Grateful to be included again, she's also happy that it allowed the two of them to get closer. Being personally thanked, Makoto decides to ask Katsura if she's currently seeing anyone. As Inari collapses from making her appearance, Yamagata is given the task of informing the others to hold off for the moment. Hearing the girl entering the hall, the duo hides, nearly caught being a little too close. Getting the message indirectly, the two remain on standby. As the messenger returns outside, the dancers that were previously trapped have now been released, complicating the issue further. Revealing a brief past relationship with Yamagata, Makoto is still seen favorably despite this. Asked if he still has feelings for her, the teen mentions the unfortunate misunderstanding he found himself in the middle of. Answering the question from earlier, Katsura verifies that she's also single. Going in for a kiss, Makoto couldn't be any smoother with the execution. Declaring his love with a serious expression, the teen makes it clear that he intends to look after Katsura while they're together. Losing themselves in the romantic atmosphere, the new lovers get busy in the dance hall. Finishing the act, the pair makes a promise to stay with each other forever. Going forward a bit, the couple is seen relaxing on a nice boat. While he's managed to keep his head intact, Makoto is now the target of various people's animosity. Answering calmly, Katsura knows that she's the reason, but honestly couldn't care less. Knowing they have each other's support, the lovers are looking forward to a bright future. In another variation of the scenario, the teens check out the festival a bit before the ceremony, though Katsura remains a bit apprehensive about the decision. Running into Kokoro, the little sister wants help locating a missing friend, but the other girl has an appointment to meet, so Makoto stays behind instead. Returning after the dance, the young man is met by Inari, having his absence called into question. Using her promise to make him give up on Katsura, the teen reluctantly agrees. Finding out the two are engaged, the other girl takes her leave, not wanting to cause an issue. The last ending is arguably one of the better ones, as a surprise appearance from Noan shakes things up a bit. Working through the main route with a lot of silence, we eventually come back to where Noan is convincing Makoto to let Inari stay at his place. However, his answers this time around are more geared towards giving her attention. Despite the conversation with Inari taking place in Makoto's room, she unfortunately gets friend-zoned here as well. When he talks to the acquaintance at the shrine, Setsuna becomes the girl he's focused on. Makoto goes on to bring up the picture of him that's saved on her phone, hoping to verify if that's a good sign. Stating that the photo could have been of someone standing near him, the acquaintance convinces the teen that he probably isn't the person Setsuna likes. Elsewhere, no one is thinking how lucky Inari is to have Makoto, but only because of his financial prospects. Currently studying to be a medical professional, the woman wouldn't mind having her career boosted from getting close to him. With her current boyfriend lacking in comparison, the girl is disappointed that she can't be with the better option. Then again, Toma brings up the fact that Makoto may not be interested in pursuing a relationship with Inari. Intrigued by this information, Noan decides to do some digging of her own. Confirming from Setsuna that nothing sexual took place, the friend encourages her to chase after Makoto, as it's evident the feelings are there. Stating this isn't the case anymore, the girl has decided to bow out of the competition. Noan tries to warn her that a passive attitude is a bad approach, but the words fall on deaf ears. Trying one last time before she leaves, the friend continues to be met with a neutral stance. Being posed an interesting question, Setsuna doesn't see the value in giving it any thought. That said, as she runs into Inari in the hall, the girl becomes more uncertain, doing her best not to overthink things. Walking by the manager's office, Noan notices the runaway collapsed on the floor. Told that she should go to the hospital, Inari refuses, claiming that the ceremony is too important to miss. Bringing up Makoto, Noan is told that he ties into the performance as well. Mentioning her role in taking care of the hostage situation, the waitress is willing to help despite not being directly involved. In light of this, Inari knows she can count on Noan for a special request. Rushing to Setsuna's place, the girl secures the medicine that the older folks have kept safe. After hearing Inari's words for herself, Noan corrects her past statement, reassuring the group that the ceremony is what she truly cares about. Back at Radish, the runaway is doing her best to hide her current condition from Makoto. Moving past him, Noan uses her medical training to effectively get a handle on the situation. Taking care of things, the girl steps out of the office to report the good news to Makoto. Recovering in time for the festival, Inari wants to do something in return for Noan's help, with the girl already having something in mind. Ready to walk to the shrine, Makoto is met with a different request, as his companion wants to collect on an earlier favor. Being met with agreement, the girl's plan is now underway. As Noan waits in his room, Makoto leaves to make the two some drinks. Upon returning, the teen finds the girl with no clothes on, being persuaded to join her. Unable to resist, the pair gets busy in a matter of moments. Locking him in place during the climax, Noan has effectively secured her future. After the credits, the pair is found at the hospital, with the new girlfriend already being an assertive force in Makoto's life. Dreaming big, Noan has her sights set on a promising life. Taking note of the girl's ability, Makoto considers himself lucky to be dating someone like her. Enticing her boyfriend with more quality time in the near future, Noan's technique has the clueless teen wrapped around her finger. In the alternate version, Makoto has the option to decline the invitation, but the girl continues to push forward with a lie. Watching him run out the door, Noan is left alone in the bedroom, failing to capture her target. Falling back on plan B, she calls up her former boyfriend, immediately patching things up with little effort. Arriving late to the ceremony, Makoto is ready to commit to Inari, realizing what was truly important to him. Moving forward as a couple, the pair gets their happy ending. With all of that said, this concludes everything in the top route. I hope you enjoyed this lighter series of events, because from here, it's only going to get more dramatic as we move on. While Setsuna ended up being sidelined, she gets a fair chance at love in the bottom route. Unfortunately for her, so do all the other girls.
Bonjour! Bonjour!
All the way back at the initial divergence point with Otome, Makoto tells her that he wants to make a lot of good memories this summer. As Saionji continues to be sick in this route, Setsuna once again takes over as a waitress. Meeting the two veteran workers, they appear to have the same demeanor as before. However, much like her first round of customer service, Setsuna gets thrown to the wolves by the others. Repeating the two incorrect orders, as well as the awkward experience with Ryuji, the new waitress has a hard time. Finishing the shift, the manager Yoko comes by, worried about Setsuna. The girl is encouraged to try again the next day, but she makes it clear that she's done enough service work to last a lifetime. Leaving the restaurant, Setsuna decides to check out the area where Makoto lives, again being intercepted by his little sister. Being told about the job at Radish, the brother mentions how he wouldn't mind getting one himself, but also wants to keep his sibling company while she's here. Messing with Setsuna a bit, the teen gives a tragic backstory to Itaru, presenting himself as her dad. Seeing through the lie, the girl takes the opportunity to jab him back. Having fun with some banter, the students get a little closer, allowing them to act more casually around each other. Being extended the same invitation as before, Setsuna looks forward to more interactions at the beach. Visiting Saionji afterwards, the sick friend has the mumps just like the previous entry. This time around, we get a little more backstory on the situation at the restaurant, stating that she could really use the help. The daughter knows how busy her mom is acclimating to the new position. Not only that, but a mass exodus of employees have left the woman scrambling for replacements. Adding a litany of additional responsibilities, Saionji paints a pretty clear picture of how swamped Yoko is in general. Being a source of comfort for the manager, Setsuna is given the real reason why she was asked to help. Accepting a new request, the friend decides to stick it out at work for the time being. Having a rough time on day 2, Setsuna is cheered on by the manager to do her best. Meeting the difficult customer for the first time, the waitress can see that she'll have her work cut out for her. Receiving the same warning from Noan, the girl gets a taste of the abuse right away. Presenting the worker with more complex food demands, the woman continues to be a handful. Bringing the items outside, Setsuna is faced with a new problem, as she apparently has a glare that she isn't aware of. Trying to convince her otherwise, the customer remains blunt with her criticism. Greeting someone new, we get a glimpse of Hikari, another potential love interest. While she's generally more casual, she gets easily agitated when dealing with Makoto. Offering to trade positions, Setsuna is reminded that the friend already has a job. Encouraged by Hikari to hang in there, the waitress gets her a seat, grateful to have a more relaxed customer. Leaving work, the girl is disappointed to find that Makoto isn't at the beach, only to be surprised by him shortly after arriving. Sensing that something is wrong, the teen inquires further, only to find out that he was right. Putting forth some guesses as to why, a snide remark about Setsuna's dating prospects earns him a justified blow. Asked if he has anyone, Makoto claims that he does, but makes the mistake of saying that the person is someone she'd know. Bluffing his way through, it doesn't take long for the class rep to catch him in a lie, as she's familiar with who the girls are interested in. Forced to accept the shame of being caught, Makoto gets teased by Setsuna, who's having fun as the victor of this little exchange. Shortly after, the teen invites the girl to a special place on the beach, being met with hesitation. It takes a bit of convincing, but Setsuna ends up being glad that she decided to take the offer. Mentioning his childhood, Makoto reveals just how much this area means to him. Appreciating the calming effect the beach has had on him over the years, he's hopeful that it could do the same for Setsuna. Using Makoto's old method of venting to the water, the girl is ready to get some things off her chest. Recalling the words of the difficult customer, it turns out that Setsuna really does have an issue with her facial expressions. Learning that she doesn't want to inconvenience others by quitting, Makoto respects how considerate she is, despite being in the middle of a tough situation. Wanting to alleviate some of the burden she's carrying, the teen is willing to offer support if she's fine with accepting it. Noting the girl's general demeanor, Makoto compares it to her usual attitude in class, coming across far more relaxed around people she's used to. Being somewhat eager to visit Setsuna at work, the friend is rejected multiple times. Thanks to all the secrecy, Makoto gets the wrong idea, assuming the location is more adult in nature. Pushing him into the water, Setsuna aims to correct this line of thinking. While Makoto may not have been the smoothest, his antics did lighten the mood, helping the girl forget her problems for a bit. Returning home, Setsuna's mother Mai is busy catching up on some work. Telling the girl about an upcoming business trip, the woman plans to be gone for a decent amount of time. Invited to come along, Setsuna wants to put her current responsibilities first. Of course, there's also the fact that she would miss her time with a certain someone if she left. Offering to have them over, the mother gets suspicious when her daughter gets awkward about the suggestion. Putting the pieces together, Mai can tell that this person is someone a little more special than just a friend. Wishing Setsuna the best, the woman watches her gradually reveal her true feelings. Over at the restaurant, Yoko wants the other girls to support the new employee until she gets more used to things. Later in the shift, the difficult customer arrives like usual, wasting no time in criticizing Setsuna. Wanting to hear a recommendation from the waitress, the woman is unamused at simply being offered a well-received item. Again told that she has an improper facial expression, the waitress is more accepting of the advice this time around. Being visited by Hikari, Setsuna is reintroduced to Yamagata, joining the friend for the afternoon. While it's true that she was somewhat involved with Makoto in the past, she has a harder time with romance these days, as her lack of confidence gets her pushed around by the others. Case in point, Yamagata was enjoying the view at the beach, but got dragged to the restaurant on a moment's notice. Seeing the waitress get chastised by the former customer, the girls offer their condolences. Hikari also encourages the worker, stating that her service is getting better as she goes. Greeting another familiar face, Setsuna gets better acquainted with Kokoro. Being infinitely more outgoing than her older sister, the girl has no problem making friends with anyone. Having her demeanor called into question, the waitress is starting to see how much of an issue it's becoming. Leaving work, Setsuna makes her way to the beach, being discovered by Makoto's sister. Seeing that the brother is in the middle of a discussion, the teen doesn't want to intrude, but gets brought over by Ataru regardless. Happy to see the friend, Makoto praises the sibling for acting as a guide. Asked by the Kato sisters who this new person is, it doesn't take long for the teen to resume his old tricks. Building up suspense, he reveals that Setsuna is actually his girlfriend, going on to admit he wasn't serious after receiving a stunned reaction. Understanding the situation, Otome clears things up with a simple explanation. Being invited out by Karen, Makoto is told the outing is actually related to the festival preparations. Giving a reasonable excuse for his refusal, the brother has someone he needs to keep tabs on. Watching the duo head elsewhere, Makoto figures they should do the same, but changes his mind after seeing the disappointment on Setsuna's face. Inquiring about work, the brother is again refused when he suggests a visit. Laughing it off, Makoto is surprised when the girl gives him a more open invitation, provided she can do things properly. Smooth as ever, the teen jokes around some more, but unlike before, this time it's taken in stride. Parting ways, Setsuna heads home, observing her mother buried in work before the trip. Being a member of Radish HQ, the woman is doing plenty behind the scenes for the company. Taking notice of the shop's menu, Setsuna gets an idea, keeping in the back of her mind for the near future. Recalling the nice words from Makoto, the girl decides to practice smiling before getting some sleep. Waking up the next morning, Makoto is informed that he has errands to run, taking Itaru with him on the trip. Over at the restaurant, Setsuna starts the day on a more positive note, greeting Kokoro with a warm expression. Remembering the customer's preferred item, the waitress is getting the hang of things. Exchanging names, Kokoro is hopeful that the worker can help her with a math problem. As expected, Setsuna gets in a bit of trouble, but she manages to share the answer before leaving. Yamagata is the next person to visit, also noticing the change in the server's demeanor. Deciding on what she wants, the customer mentions her frequent trips to the nearby ocean. Inquiring further, Setsuna watches the girl get flustered, not sure what to make of the reaction. Wondering about a specific item, neither girl is certain on exactly what the topping is, but Yamagata orders it regardless. Asked to clean up a bit outside, Setsuna is found by Kokoro, grateful to the server for teaching her how to solve the earlier problem. Saying goodbye as she runs off, the girl accidentally runs into Makoto. As the teens recognize each other, Kokoro makes a rather quick assumption. Denying that he's Setsuna's boyfriend, Makoto is met with disapproval for avoiding the question. Making Itaru cry with her statements, Kokoro quickly patches things up with his sister. Being left alone, Makoto says how he never would have expected Setsuna to be working at Radish. Having his preferences dashed, the uniforms leave something to be desired, at least in his opinion. Before he heads home, the teen checks up on the waitress, receiving a promising response. Mentioning the main challenge she still needs to overcome, Makoto offers a questionable solution at the wrong time. Overhearing the discussion, the woman isn't impressed with the poor display of professionalism. Feeling bad about the issue he caused, Makoto regrets the thoughtless remark. Returning inside, the waitress had apparently been watched by Yamagata, noticing how close they appeared to be. Writing it off as a coincidence, the girl stifles what seems to be a bit of jealousy. Bringing up the parfait from earlier, Yamagata confirms the identity of the mystery topping. As the friend leaves, Oruha informs Setsuna of a special request, with the regular from earlier wanting a different server. Taking care of the seedy customers outside, Noan does her best to ignore their advances. Not appreciating this, Ryuji flips her skirt up, enjoying the lewd display. Forced to take the difficult woman's order, Setsuna experiences a more concise interaction for obvious reasons. Bringing cheesecake to the customer, the waitress learns that not only had it expired, but it was being saved by the other girls. Concluding the shift with one final mistake, Setsuna launches a glass of water at the woman outside thanks to Ryuji's meddling. As the girl arrives at the beach, Yamagata and Makoto mention various things about the restaurant to Otome. While everyone decides to head home for the day, Itaru wants to spend more time with Setsuna, making the brother stick around. Being asked about work, the girl breaks down in tears, feeling terrible after everything that happened. Calming down a little later, Setsuna apologizes for the display, but Makoto doesn't mind her getting the emotions out. Going home, the brother thinks more about the situation, deciding to visit the friend the next day. Following through on this, Makoto's timing is a bit off, as Setsuna isn't on the schedule. As the server never introduced the teen as someone she knows, his request to see her is met with suspicion by the others. Stating that he's a classmate, Makoto is given a test to see if that's true. Failing to answer the question, the misunderstanding continues to get worse. Trying again, Makoto claims to be a friend, willing to share a secret of hers to prove it. Mentioning her supposed boyfriend, the young man hits another dead end. Out of patience, the employees have had just about enough of the visitor's antics. Thankfully, Itaru chimes in, clearing things up in a matter of moments. Learning about their meetings at the beach, the co-workers become more receptive to Makoto's story. Supporting the couple, the girls give the teen Setsuna's address, sending him on his way. Arriving at the girl's front door, Makoto starts to get anxious, worried that he might be seen as weird for casually swinging by. Before he can do anything, Itaru rings the doorbell, causing the brother to panic. Getting caught by Setsuna before he can run, Makoto sheepishly heads inside. Apologizing for the intrusion, the young man is told that the friend is doing better now. Having finished her cleaning for the day, Setsuna is now doing her best to memorize the entirety of the restaurant's menu. Relaxing with the parfaits they brought over, the girl eventually asks Makoto to test her knowledge. Answering a variety of questions, Setsuna has gotten a handle on just about everything. Throwing a curveball, Makoto inquires about who she likes, going on to make himself the correct response. Of course, the teen is just joking, but the girl's silence speaks volumes. Satisfied with the quiz, Setsuna decides to call it a day, so the siblings head home. Coming into work the following morning, the two co-workers are disappointed to learn that nothing steamy happened with Makoto. Bringing up the difficult customer, the duo is surprised when Setsuna responds with confidence. Elsewhere, Yamagata runs into Kaden and the twins, inviting them to come with her to Radish. Already having plans, they kindly refuse the offer, leaving soon after. Talking amongst themselves, the topic shifts to Makoto, with Kaden mentioning how Otome has been keeping very close tabs on Yamagata. Granted, the older sister tends to be very proactive active in general when it comes to gatekeeping potential girlfriends. This is one reason why she bullies Katsura in class. Then again, as Futaba has an idea to get more time with the love interest, Kaden demonstrates how similar she is to Otome in regards to being possessive. Over at the beach, Makoto encounters Yamagata, not exactly enthusiastic about the meeting. Interrupting the two, Kokoro jumps in with quite a statement, stunning the other girl. Still set on the two being a couple, the acquaintance is forced to accept the truth from Makoto. Properly introducing themselves, the two briefly forget about Yamagata, unintentionally sidelining her for the time being. However, after a sudden invitation to Radish, Kokoro states that everyone present should meet up in a couple hours. Watching the two act so casually with each other, Yamagata wants to do the same with Makoto. Failing to ask about Setsuna, the girl takes her leave, knowing they'll have more time to talk at the restaurant. Back at Radish, Hikari swings by to see the waitress. Asking about a certain food item, Setsuna is now fully armed with the knowledge to explain exactly what it is. Wanting a tea to go with the dessert, the server recommends the perfect one to complete the combo. Thoroughly impressed, Hikari can't believe the change her friend has gone through. Complimenting her, the customer goes on to bring up an unexpected rumor, catching the waitress off guard. Apparently, the coworkers told the manager about Makoto, who let Saionji know, who sent a text around talking about what happened. Correcting her friend, Setsuna isn't amused by this turn of events. Putting this aside, the server gives Yoko some feedback on the menu. Interjecting, Noan informs the two that a certain someone has appeared, with the manager sending Setsuna to take care of her. Being questioned on this, Yoko assures the employee that everything will work out. Greeting the woman with a smile, Setsuna leaves the difficult customer at a loss for words. With this particular duo becoming somewhat well known by the other patrons, they all watch this encounter with anticipation. Opening with her usual inquiries, this time, the woman is given the desired information. Deciding on a dessert, the customer is offered a beverage to go with it, accepting the suggestion. Over at the beach, Makoto shows up at the meeting spot, given a hard time despite following Kokoro's instructions. Coming shortly after, Yamagata gets the same treatment. Making their way to the restaurant, the group arrives just in time to watch Setsuna carry a drink out to the terrace. Unfortunately, the girl has another hurdle to overcome, as the undesirable men are sitting nearby. Thankfully, Setsuna expects an attack from behind, handling it with grace and catching Ryuji in the act. Amazed by her quick reaction, the trio is happy to see things going smoothly. As the waitress brings the woman's order, Setsuna gets the impression that something is wrong as she's called out to. It seems this isn't the case, as the customer is just curious why she chose the drink she did. Stating that she committed the items to memory, the server is met with a dumbfounded response. Learning that the waitress only needed a few days to get a handle on everything, the woman praises Setsuna, ending the interaction on pleasant terms. Observed by everyone around her, the worker has no doubt earned a lot of respect. If I may interject here, I love this little mini arc of the main story. While the top route repurposed the restaurant section for other means, here we get to see some real character development over the course of a few days. I'm sure plenty of us can relate to starting a new job and being terrible at it. In the same vein, Setsuna had a very rough time at the beginning, struggling to keep up in general. Despite this, she takes that experience, applies herself outside of work, and surprises everyone as she turns the tables. Look, I know it's not groundbreaking or anything, but I got a big smile watching this all come to fruition. I don't care what anybody says. I think Setsuna is a good character in this moment, and she's totally not going to break my heart later. Definitely not. Closing shop for the day, Yoko talks with someone about her contributions to Radish, now wanting to compromise for the sake of corporate. Wanting feedback on the restaurant as a whole, the manager is informed that the place could use an overhaul. Reporting her observations, the difficult customer drops the facade, fulfilling the obligations of her real job. Going by Manami Katsura, the woman is not only a friend of Yoko's, but is also the mother of two other girls we've seen before. Strict with her evaluation, it seems the woman's true demeanor isn't too far off from the act she was playing. Offering some encouraging words by the end, Manami wishes Yoko the best with Radish. Leaving with her daughter, it seems that Kokoro is also contributing feedback of her own. As Makoto gets ready to head home, he's intercepted by his sister, who's not happy that she slept through the afternoon. Meeting Setsuna outside, Makoto mentions her amazing performance with the customers, impressed with how she handled herself. Thanking him for the support, the worker is grateful for his presence in general, taking the stress away during the rough period. Saying something important, an opportune distraction prevents the girl's message from getting across. With this being where the second chapter ends, the story now has the opportunity to branch out in various ways. Entering the next section along the top, we'll start things off with a true love route, or something along those lines. The next day, no one in Oruha's opinion of Setsuna has completely changed, telling some new workers about her incredible feats. More lively than usual, the restaurant received additional help from corporate, as the festival is right around the corner. Starting this shift, Setsuna gets visited by Karen and the twins. As the server already knows Otome's sister, this acts as her, and the players, introduction to the other two. On the right, Futaba is dangerously persuasive and confident, which may or may not factor into certain future events. Kazuha, on the other hand, is far more reserved, usually going with the flow of her sister's plans. Mentioning that Setsuna is in the same class as Makoto, the trio makes their interest apparent. Leaving for the beach, the girl arrives in time to see the young man casually chatting with Kokoro. Recalling the conversation at the restaurant, Setsuna can't help but remark on everyone's admiration for him. Surprised at how quickly the two became friends, she's told it was circumstantial, as they met by chance the other day. Makoto heads out, but slows down as he runs into best girl Katsura for the first time. Revealing the girl to be her sister, Kokoro is just killing time before being picked up. Left by herself, Setsuna gets more anxious as her competition continues to grow. Coming home, the girl is praised by Mai, as the mother heard from the other two women how well she did at work. Retreating to her room, Setsuna thinks more about Makoto, realizing the road ahead will be tougher than she expected. Elsewhere, Itaru was informed that she'll be leaving the next day, upsetting the girl who's enjoyed spending time with her brother. Doing his best to calm her down, Makoto stays with the sibling until she falls asleep, knowing how hard their family situation is for her. Going to work the following day, Setsuna is reminded of the manager's business trip, the same one her mother will be joining in on. Hoping to improve Itaru's mood, Makoto decides they should take one last trip over to Radish. Just outside, the Kato sisters are talking about inviting him to the festival, with Kaden chastising certain things that Otome is lacking. Being met by Makoto, the girls are disappointed when the encounter is cut short. Coming to the restaurant, the brother is immediately teased by no one regarding their last visit. Jokingly being told that they're in love, the server doesn't miss a beat, announcing the lover's arrival to Setsuna. Makoto does his best to brush off the perception that they're dating, with the girl awkwardly going along with it. Eating their food, the siblings are in agreement about their father, wishing they didn't have to deal with him. Proposing an idea for her to get out of it, Itaru wants to be part of a new family with Setsuna. Knowing that won't work, the brother humors a different request instead. With the waitress being asked to join, the girl plays along, agreeing to the proposition. Finishing the shift, the others bring up the replacement manager that'll be coming to relieve Yoko. Running into Yamagata by the beach, Setsuna watches the acquaintance get flustered for seemingly no reason. Being questioned about her own purpose for coming, the worker puts out a similar excuse. Deciding to head to the station together, the duo is met by Karen and the twins. Asking Setsuna an odd question, the lone Kato sister is satisfied that the girls run with Makoto. As Karen leaves with Yamagata, the twins feel that this might be a good opportunity to invite him to the festival. Unfortunately, as they head to the beach, Setsuna is the one who finds him, hearing Itaru further down the station. Explaining the family situation to the friend, Makoto was hopeful that his sister could make it back home alone, but it ended up being too hard on her. Suggesting for him to ride the train with Itaru, Setsuna comes along too, helping quite a bit. Wanting to thank her somehow, Makoto offers the usual invitation to hang out by the ocean. Wondering what he'll be doing on the day of the festival, Setsuna is told that he'll probably spend some time helping with preparations. Learning he doesn't have any plans after that, the girl gathers her courage and asks him out. Agreeing to the proposition, Makoto provides a location for them to meet. The next morning, he runs into Hikari at the station, being met with annoyance right away. Bringing up the festival, the girl has no plans to attend, but Makoto surprises her with his own arrangements. After this energetic encounter, he comes across the twins a bit later. Finally getting the chance to ask him out, the girls are intercepted by Kaden before they can do anything. Requesting his help with the ceremony work, the sister is caught off guard when he accepts the job. Telling him to go on ahead, Kaden berates the twins for scheming behind her back, going on to make sure it doesn't happen again. Sending the two off to do some shopping, the girl gets one pair of distractions out of the way. Bringing Makoto to the shrine, Otome secretly praises Kaden for her efforts. Over at Radish, Hikari meets Yamagata in regards to a personal favor. As Setsuna comes by, the annoyed girl deviates a bit, complaining about her time with Makoto at the station. Listening to her badmouth the male friend, the waitress defends him against the barrage of insults. As the server gets back to work, Yamagata tries to talk about her problem, only to get interrupted by a phone call. The girl is told by Otome not to come to the shrine today, and hearing Makoto's voice voice in the background quickly understands why. Hanging up, Yamagata tells Hikari about a romance plot she's developing, intriguing the friend who loves drama. Back at the shrine, Makoto is doing his best to keep up with the labor, while Kaden enjoys his company. Asking about his festival plans, the girl is told that he's going with someone, but their identity is kept secret. Reporting this to Otome, the sisters can only speculate if this is a problem or not. Hoping to throw off his meeting, they plan to bury him in work so he's forced to stay there. Calling a truce, the siblings remain careful about a possible betrayal. Using the same tactic against Yamagata, the girl is informed that she'll be busy as well. Determined to carry out her objective, the young woman states that she'll break away no matter what. Running into Kokoro later on, Setsuna learns that she's got her own plans for the festival. Mentioning her own arrangement, the worker is told about a lewd tradition that takes place in the forest near the ceremony. Encouraged to take her boyfriend there, Setsuna knows that she still has a few hurdles left to overcome first. One of these includes talking to Makoto again, but she's too embarrassed to verify the date. Unable to do it himself, the young man is confused by the increase in labor, already caught in a scheme laid out by the sisters. On the day of the festival, Otome is ready to keep Yamagata busy as much as possible. As Makoto returns for more work, the sisters' jealousy flares up as her competition is happy to see him. Right on cue, Yamagata tries to arrange for some time to herself, but the tomboy has her number, assigning her a station to keep her away from the love interest. Reporting this to Kaden, the girls rationalize that Yamagata is who Makoto was going to meet. Agreeing to take turns watching, the two plan to keep her locked down. Over at Radish, Hikari stops by for an energizing drink, as she knows the favor for Yamagata is going to take a heavy toll on her. Asking no one for a suggestion, Setsuna has recommended a strange concoction from the manager's collection. Despite the beverage having an odd flavor, Hikari apparently feels much better after drinking it. As the waitress continues her shift, she misses a call from Makoto, who made the effort to confirm things. Regrettably, Kaden overhears the teen talking to himself, catching an important section. Badgering him about his date, the girl wonders if the festival invitation was from Yamagata. Being told it wasn't, Kaden isn't satisfied with this answer, leaving Makoto with another mountain of chores to finish. Acting abrasively towards Yamagata, Otome regrets missing her chance to guarantee some time with her crush. Getting another report from Kaden about the phone call, the older sister has the earlier theory confirmed by the one making an assumption. Lacking the energy to get upset, Otome feels more discouraged by the news than anything. Arriving on the scene, Hikari comes to verify her role in Yamagata's plan. Using the friend as a better excuse to leave, the girl is allowed a small break from the warden. Brought to the iconic forest that was mentioned by Kokoro, Hikari is told to bring Makoto here to meet Yamagata. Interrupting their discussion, Oruha is led through the trees by Ryuji. Explaining the nature of the place they're at, the boyfriend gets things started with his lover. Taking notice of the other girls, the couple heads deeper into the forest to continue. Thanks to this, Hikari fully understands what her friend plans to do. Mentioning her previous relationship with Makoto, Yamagata knows the effort will be necessary to keep him by her side. Committed to the plan, Hikari is ready to help, standing by until the right time. Meanwhile, Setsuna comes to the shrine soon after, being met by Otome. Asking about Makoto, the tomboy is none the wiser about her intentions. Calling Yamagata over, Otome allows her to take another break, leaving the two to kill time somewhere. As Makoto arrives moments later, the teen is looking to leave before he's dragged into more of the festivities. Assaulting him with multiple excuses to stay, none of them manage to stick, with Otome's flimsy defense on the verge of collapsing. Thankfully, Kaden mentions the portable children's shrine breaking during an accident, convincing Makoto to repair it. Slightly adjusting the plan, the younger sister has a handle on things, amazing the other girl with her quick thinking. Surprising her further, Kaden also has Yamagata's phone, making it impossible for her to call anyone. Over at the forest, the other two girls are having a light conversation. Ready to head back, Yamagata gets nervous as the friend decides to linger. Making things worse, Setsuna wants to know if Makoto is around. Bringing up the plans they made, the girl is abruptly cut off, confused by the sudden shift in attitude. As Yamagata calls her character into question, Setsuna understands what this is all about. While both girls have feelings for Makoto, it was understood that one of them wasn't interested anymore. The young man had actually planned to ask Yamagata out, but someone else beat him to the punch, ruining the entire thing. Apparently, this was a plot devised by Otome to keep her away from Makoto. On top of that, if you recall the scene I apologized for at the start of the video, she also orchestrated the Katsura incident for similar reasons. Basically, when it comes to the guy she likes, this chick is ruthless. Noticing a shift in his attitude, Yamagata wanted to approach Makoto now while she still had the chance. Putting her plan out in the open, the girl makes a stand against her new rival. Meeting her with equal force, Setsuna pushes back back with her own determination. Declaring war, the two part ways, aiming for success. Currently in the middle of repairs, Makoto has his phone hijacked by Karen, intercepting a call from Setsuna. With Yamagata fully in the girl's sights, the sister is completely unaware of the new threat coming her way. Making herself completely available, Karen is totally ignored in favor of the shrine work. Heading to the festival to get some snacks, the girl leaves Makoto alone for the time being. Trapped outside in the crowd, Hikari is feeling a bit uneasy, as the peculiar drink from Radish is starting to have an adverse effect. Finally reaching where Makoto is, the girl takes notice of the task he's currently busy with. Attempting to bring him to the forest, Hikari is refused, as the teen is waiting for Setsuna to arrive. Told that he has a special someone waiting to see him, Makoto is forcefully dragged away against his will. Brought to the meeting place, Yamagata is nowhere to be found, prompting the young man to move on. Claiming that the person in question is just hiding, Hikari looks around while the guest takes a seat. Catching Oruha and Ryuji in the act of lovemaking, the girl can't help but watch, shaking her ass right next to Makoto for quite some time. Confirming that the person he's waiting for belongs to his class, the teen gets up, ready to confront them himself. Stating that they already had plans to begin with, Hikari doesn't realize that he's referring to a different person. Insisting that the two lovers are meant to be together, the girl unwittingly scores another point for the wrong team. Calling Setsuna, Makoto tells her where to go, ready for whatever happens next. Finding her way there, the girl gets told about his escapade with Hikari, with both completely unaware of all the scheming behind the scenes. Inviting Setsuna to stay, the teen continues his work, only needing a little more time to finish. Standing just outside the entrance, she wonders if Makoto has someone else he'd rather be spending time with, being met with a confused answer. Stating he won't be able to talk for a bit, the repairman keeps an ear out, at least able to answer back with his tools. However, one of the nearby workers brings Makoto away from the shrine to help with a quick job. Not realizing that he's gone, Setsuna finally gets the courage to admit her feelings. Bringing up what happened at the entrance ceremony, the girl officially begins her confession. In the middle of this, Karen returns to the room, overhearing Setsuna as she continues. Putting herself out there, the girl declares her love, shocking the one who's currently eavesdropping. Wishing him happiness in general, Setsuna plans to hold on to her feelings regardless of Makoto's choice. Hoping for an answer of some kind, the young woman has no idea what to expect. Becoming more curious, she notices that things have been silent on Makoto's end for a while now. Asked for a response with the hammer, Karen panics, not sure what she should do. Accidentally tripping, the sister unintentionally gives an answer, though the time it took for a reply discourages the one confessing. Deciding to give up on her crush, Setsuna leaves to take one last look at the ocean she used to enjoy with Makoto. Arriving moments later, the teen comes back to see that all his hard work has gone down the drain. Using the opportunity to confess herself, Karen takes the earlier speech and repeats the exact same words to Makoto. This is the part where I started internally screaming. Taking this seriously, the young man admits that he doesn't see her that way, preferring to maintain their current relationship. Angrily accusing him of still being interested in Yamagata, Makoto refutes the claim, insisting there's nothing there anymore. Learning that Setsuna has left him behind, the teen laments his horrible luck when it comes to love. Admitting that he still cares deeply for her, Makoto is conflicted about his next move. Appreciating Karen being honest with him, the girl finally caves, revealing the truth behind her words. Reciting everything verbatim, the sister confirms that Setsuna is the source of the heartfelt speech. Being told to catch her at the beach, Makoto takes off, hoping he isn't too late. Running into a pair of familiar faces, the teen is invited to join them. Politely refusing, he informs them of his mission, being wished the best as he heads out. Dashing to his usual spot, Makoto manages to find the person he's looking for. Doing her best to cope with this situation, Setsuna keeps her distance, trying to push the visitor away. Sitting down next to her, Makoto makes a delicate approach. Explaining how he was busy elsewhere, the teen goes over everything that happened at the shrine, including Karen's confession. As Setsuna wishes them well, Makoto changes the story, knowing it was really her that inspired the words. Revealing his own feelings, the young man lets the girl know that they're on the same page. Reiterating the circumstances behind her supposed admission, Makoto presents a way of knowing for sure if she really did put herself out there. Finally dropping her walls, Setsuna is honest with the one she cares about. Properly confirming their feelings, the new couple seals the arrangement with a kiss. However, there's still an additional part of the girl's speech that's up in the air. Throwing caution to the wind, the two make love by the waves. Finishing the act, Setsuna gives the pair some new nicknames, cementing them as a couple. The next morning, the two lovers wake up together at Makoto's place. Elsewhere, Yamagata is paying Saionji a visit. Claiming that she hasn't been sick for a while now, it seems the friend's main objective now was avoiding her job. Then again, her motivation to work increases significantly after hearing that Makoto comes to the restaurant fairly often. Wanting Yamagata to bring some friends to Radish, Saionji makes sure to include the most important guest. Already there for different reasons, Makoto sees his new girlfriend off before she heads inside. Interrupting the two, Shun makes his first appearance in a while. Reminding Setsuna of the manager's trip, the older man will be in charge until she returns. Concerned about the new person his girlfriend is familiar with, Makoto is left to question things as the two walk away. Thinking about this more on the beach, the teen puts the issue aside as Yamagata invites him to come to Radish the next day. Not sure why Saionji wants him there, Makoto is fed a story about it being a friendly gathering. Reminded of Setsuna's work arrangement, he learns that today marks her final shift. Worried by how close they seem to be, Yamagata drives in the fact that she's leaving, not giving Makoto the chance to reveal his new relationship. Jumping into the conversation, Otome wonders what's going on. Watching her crush invite the worst person possible to the get-together, Yamagata is relieved when the girl declines the offer. Walking off together, Otome accuses her companion of a secret ploy, being met with denial. Discouraging any further activity, the tomboy takes her leave. Meanwhile, Shun is ready to kick things off at the restaurant. He may be a little too enthusiastic though, as his normal work routine has been carried over, as well as some of his loyal customers. Learning that Setsuna knows him somehow, the other girls press her to spill the secret. Caving to the request, the waitress is interrupted by a phone call just before she can say anything. Having a brief conversation with Saionji, Setsuna reports that she won't be working at Radish anymore. Claiming this to be fine, she insinuates that something about Shun makes it impossible for her to continue the job. Hoping to see Setsuna again in the future, the girls say their goodbyes. Heading to Makoto's place that night, the couple gets passionate, engaging in some rather adventurous positions. Afterwards, Setsuna mentions her job coming to a close, seeming to be discouraged about it. Makoto claims this to be a positive thing, as not only does it mean that Saionji is healthy again, but the two will also have the opportunity to spend more time together as a couple. Agreeing with this perspective, Setsuna appreciates her boyfriend cheering her up. Bringing up the meeting at Radish, Makoto invites his lover to come along, but she isn't sure if it's a good idea. Regardless, the girl changes her mind pretty quickly, wanting to prevent any funny business. Handling this suspicion with his usual smoothness, the boyfriend knows that his partner is just teasing him. Checking on her friend, Setsuna has shown appreciation for holding things down while she was out. Informing Saionji that she'll be stopping by Radish to see her, the girl doesn't mention the previous invitation. The next morning, Yamagata is already planning her strategy to get Makoto alone. Putting a damper on things, the teen arrives with Setsuna by his side. Assuming that she plans to support Saionji's pursuit of Makoto, Yamagata is told that it's already too late for that. Grabbing a table at the restaurant, the small group is greeted by the original server. Watching Makoto get special treatment from Saionji, Setsuna decides to go on the offensive. Casually dropping his nickname, this lone act shocks the other girls. Going further, Setsuna orders a beverage meant specifically for couples. Leaning against Makoto, the girl asserts her dominance rather effectively. Executing the finishing blow, Setsuna declares that the two of them are dating. As Makoto explains how this came to be, the other girls are dumbfounded by this revelation. Shaken by the romantic display, Saionji can't handle it, retreating to the break room to recover. Yamagata handles it a bit better, still crushed to learn that she never stood a chance from the beginning. Asking Makoto a serious question, the girl is met with an awkward silence, left behind as he worries about his girlfriend. Not realizing that Saionji had her own hidden feelings, Setsuna unintentionally destroyed the waitress and her plan. Offering to swap places with her again, the girl returns to work while the friend recuperates from a different illness. Needing the manager's permission, Makoto gets ready to object, being cut off as Shun appears to address the current issue. Apologizing for cutting the day short, Setsuna heads into the office, followed by some strange behavior from the older man. As Makoto walks to the entrance, he catches a glimpse of the other servers handling a difficult customer from yesterday's party environment. Overhearing them talk about how close Shun and Setsuna seem to be, the boyfriend is less than pleased with this development. Getting a call from Itaru later that evening, the two have a nice conversation, but it causes him to circle back to certain negative thoughts. Returning to Radish the following day, Makoto immediately sees the two workers together outside of the restaurant. Running into Kaden and the twins, the teen is invited to join them inside, but he decides that today isn't the best time for him. Grabbing a table, the girls all notice that something was off about Makoto, wondering if he's alright. Putting this aside for the moment, Futaba gets up to use the bathroom. Elsewhere, Shun is doing his best to be friendly with Setsuna, but she responds coldly like usual. Getting on the topic of Saionji, the server wonders if the manager might be able to help with her current condition, unable to do anything herself. Interrupting them, Futaba opens the wrong door, being met with an awkward response from Shun. Accusing the older man of engaging in unsavory activities, Setsuna is assured that nothing like that is happening. So real quick, back during the top route, you remember how Natsuki encouraged Shun to get back together with his ex-wife? Do you also recall how he fathered a lot of different kids? Well, naturally, it's that womanizing that resulted in him divorcing Setsuna's mom. A big reason the daughter is so cold towards him is because he can't stop sleeping around, hence the overall secrecy. Down at the beach, Makoto is approached by the Kato sisters. Making a bit of small talk, the topic of Radish comes up and oh boy. Shun, what are you doing, buddy? Anyways, not realizing the restaurant has a new manager, which should be impossible since Shun literally announced it in front of him, Makoto is told that the person in question seems a bit indecent. Watching Futaba and the manager interact, Kaden gets the idea that they might be dating, making her friend uneasy. Paranoid now, Makoto makes a trip to the restaurant, catching Setsuna right as the establishment is closing for the day. Making a bold declaration of love, the boyfriend wants to ensure his place by her side. Being met with hesitation, Makoto's suspicion continues to rise. Going to change, Setsuna leaves the teen at the entrance, not aware that the other servers are feeding the fire. Growing more anxious, Makoto takes the initiative and heads to the back. Inside the office, Futaba has returned, not listening to the manager's attempts to refuse her. Observing from the hall, the nagging feeling Makoto had is now manifesting itself before his eyes. Watching the girl strip down, Shun's resistance crumbles, getting busy with his lover in moments. Okay, so I may have lied about the wholesome Christian experience thing. Ready to go, Setsuna finds her boyfriend missing, and he's not answering his phone either. Sending a friendly text message, the girl has no idea that something is wrong. Visiting Saionji, Setsuna is pushed away as the friend continues to sulk. Bringing up Shun, the worker hopes mentioning him will make things a bit better, but it seems to have the opposite effect. Coming back to Radish the next day, Makoto prepares to take action. Talking near the kitchen, Shun desperately tries to convince Setsuna that he's left his old ways behind. Continuing to say some very questionable things, the manager doesn't notice a certain someone lurking in the background. Going back and forth, Shun eventually says a few lines to Setsuna that could easily be misconstrued. With the arrival of a delivery truck, the waitress finally takes notice of her boyfriend, who's had just about enough of his competition. Noting how well the two of them are getting along, Makoto's demeanor clearly shows a lack of trust. Seeing that things look bad, Setsuna prevents the teen from leaving. Needing to talk about the situation, the girl brings her boyfriend into the changing room, ensuring their privacy. Makoto has no intention of listening to more lies, but his partner wants to clear the air. Being asked about her relation to Shun, Setsuna does the worst thing possible and refuses to clarify. This is the part where I started actually screaming. Out of patience, Makoto is ready to leave, but his girlfriend desperately clings to him, begging for a little more time to get a handle on things. Kissing him, Setsuna is initially met with opposition, but a declaration of love pushes him over the edge. If I may pause for a moment, I'd like to examine this scenario a bit more rationally. Assuming someone like Shun is getting close to your girlfriend, I think it's fair to get suspicious. However, Setsuna is pretty straightforward with how she carries herself, so there probably wouldn't be much room for lying. Nevertheless, to easily resolve this issue, she could say something along the lines of, "Look, he's my dad, but it's complicated, and I'm not comfortable talking about it just yet." All suspicion would be gone, and it would give her boyfriend some peace of mind. If she doesn't want to do that, Makoto could simply ask, "Did you used to date him, and is this a family-related problem?" Without giving specifics, Setsuna could answer yes or no, and again, easily resolve this. Given how she is, keeping the secret could be a matter of pride. But the person who loves you is clearly bothered, so I don't think it's too much to ask to properly communicate. With this in mind, I now ask you, do they slow down and talk things out, or does the worst possible outcome happen? Given the track record of this series, it should be pretty fucking obvious. After the kissing, Makoto forces himself on Setsuna, who reluctantly starts to get busy with him in the break room. In the middle of this, Shun knocks on the door, asking to continue the conversation. Talking to Setsuna while the couple pauses their activity, the manager says more heartfelt lines that end up annoying Makoto further. Resuming the act of lovemaking, Shun gets worried as he hears the girl's voice struggling to keep up. Threatening to show the manager what they're doing, Makoto wants his girlfriend to tell Shun that she hates him. Not wanting to do it, the young man holds on to his suspicion. Openly declaring that he loves his daughter, the manager enters the room in time to see the couple finishing their exercise. Also, I'm pretty sure Setsuna locked the door earlier, but Alright. Watching his girlfriend run outside, Makoto realizes his mistake, chasing after her. Catching sight of Manami, Setsuna begs her for a ride, being obliged as they drive off together. Asked for a destination, the passenger tells her that she's going to Paris. She's going to Paris. Yeah, okay, sure, let's go to Paris. Jesus Christ. Assuming that Setsuna returned home, Makoto is met by Yamagata and Saionji, told that the girlfriend is elsewhere. Texting the other two, apparently she's not just going to Paris, she's staying there. Questioned if he's the cause of this, Genius here can't think of anything that may have resulted in this outcome. By the next morning, rumors are already being spread about what happened to the couple. Inquiring if the two broke up, Yamagata gets met with favorable answers. Learning that Otome is currently out of the picture, the girl has a single chance if she wants to make her move. Leaving Radish immediately, Yamagata makes a mad dash to Makoto's house. Wanting to talk to him, the young woman is surprised when he states he doesn't have much time. Being asked what the rush is, Makoto gives a rather direct answer. Shifting countries, Setsuna arrived safely at her destination. The two mothers can tell something is wrong, doing their best to lighten the mood. Being a little too on the nose with her deduction, Yoko gets punished by the agitated girl, taking it in stride. Mentioning the fact that Setsuna brought her phone, Saionji's mother hopes that things will be able to work out for her. Sadly, the girlfriend doesn't have much faith, not receiving much contact from her supposed lover. Assuming the worst, negative thoughts continue to pile up. Giving the girl some thoughtful advice, Yoko encourages her not to give up, as all relationships have their hurdles to overcome. Finishing up a phone call, Maya's ready to have some fun in the new country, but Setsuna refuses to come along. Forced to join them, the daughter is confused when the trio ends up at the airport. Apparently, the earlier call informed Mai of a surprise visitor, one who looks quite remorseful. Apologizing for his actions, Makoto is met with understanding. Holding each other close in the terminal, the two successfully renew their love for each other, ending the route. So, yeah, somehow it managed to work out. Just as a reminder, this was the good ending, for what that's worth. Also, this little rendezvous at the airport has a lot of different variations, but we'll get into that a bit later.
Merci beaucoup.
Moving to the middle path, we'll be jumping into the average love route. I'm going to be leaving certain parts out on purpose for use elsewhere, so for the record, I didn't forget, okay? Starting just after Setsuna gets used to her job, we return to the point before Makoto's sister heads home. As the waitress visits the beach, she's surprised to find Kokoro waiting there instead of the usual person. Cutting right to the chase, the sister is hoping to get Makoto's number, disappointed to learn that Setsuna doesn't have it. Mentioning the celebration at the shrine, Kokoro plans to invite him when she gets the chance. Telling Setsuna to come along too, the sociable girl knows Makoto is more likely to show up if she does. Revealing a rather startling revelation, Kokoro shocks the friend with this knowledge. It turns out this is just an assumption, as Makoto tends to be laid back with most people. Already having a boyfriend, Kokoro is looking to play matchmaker, wanting to get the young man together with Katsura. Keeping this plan a secret, the sister is even considered the best method to get on Itaru's good side. Unfortunately, with the absence of the key player, nothing can be done at the moment. Over at the train station, Makoto is doing his best to send Itaru on her way. Not looking where she's going, the little sister accidentally causes someone to drop their belongings. Amazingly, the person in question just so happens to be Katsura. Being extremely kind to Itaru, the girl donates her remaining parfait, unintentionally making the plot from before a success. Enjoying a bit of small talk, the teens get the chance to connect over their younger siblings. Already being somewhat familiar with each other, the two also realize that they go to the same school. Going along with his sister on the train, Makoto parts ways with a new acquaintance. Meeting another recognizable face at the beach, Katsura properly introduces herself to Setsuna. Not entirely on board with going to the festival, the older sister isn't given much say in the matter. Thankfully, Setsuna chimes in that it'll be a group outing, making Katsura more receptive to the idea. The following morning, Kokoro is already scheming, wanting her sister to pick her up so she can meet Makoto. Heading to the beach, the girl is hopeful that he'll be present today. Unfortunately, Makoto ends up spending a lot of time in his room away from everyone. Dejectedly walking to Radish, Kokoro tells Setsuna to give him a call, not wanting her plan to fail. The mastermind continues to be met with disappointment, as the server reiterates that she doesn't have Makoto's phone number. Waiting until the worker finishes her shift, Kokoro decides that the best course of action is to go directly to his place. Around the same time, Makoto is asked by his mother to run an errand. Luckily for the girls, they manage to catch him at the front door. Presented with a hypothetical question from the sister, the young man's answer is perfectly perfectly in line with their thinking. Being told this person could use a lover, Makoto's suggestion is pushed aside in favor of a better one. Coming to pick her sister up, Katsura is reintroduced to the person she spent time with the other day. Being asked if he likes her in front of Setsuna, Makoto dodges the question, though the answer is obvious. Looking forward to the festival tomorrow, Kokoro arranges for them to meet at the train station. Figuring he wouldn't see Katsura until school resumed, Makoto is amazed by this stroke of luck. Excited for the opportunity to get closer to her, he doesn't notice that Setsuna has gotten more quiet. Telling the girl a secret, Makoto mentions his less than enjoyable experience with Yamagata. Never being confessed to, the young man admits it would hit hard if that were to happen. Wondering what his reaction would be if she said she liked him, Setsuna watches Makoto shy away from giving a proper response. Stating that he's interested in Katsura, the teen tells his friend about the previous encounter he had at the station. While Makoto ends the conversation feeling content, Setsuna starts to feel less confident about her chance to be with him. Heading to the station together, the teens finally exchange phone numbers before parting ways. Impressed with how the girl handles her device, Makoto is told about a trick involving a sequence of numbers. Boarding the train as the doors close, Setsuna managed to at least convey her feelings indirectly. Going over the special message, Setsuna anxiously wonders what Makoto will say. Unfortunately, the teen gets distracted, losing himself in thoughts about Katsura. The morning of the festival, Kokoro is encouraging her sister to make a move on Makoto later that night. Gradually resisting less and less, Katsura starts to consider the idea. As she brings up the iconic forest, Kokoro's progress nearly goes back to square one. Regardless, the sibling pushes onward, getting ready for the next phase of the plan. Finishing work for the day, Setsuna glances out the window in time to see the sisters in their new outfits. Wearing her yukata, the girl heads over to the meeting place. Arriving first, Makoto is called out to by the siblings, who are more than ready for the festival. Playing up their appearance, Kokoro can see that her preparation has paid off. Waiting for their other companion, it doesn't take long before Setsuna catches up with them. Glancing at her outfit, the trio has nothing but nice things to say. Then again, a certain comment from Makoto leaves the girl wondering what he actually thinks. As the sisters drag their male friend around the area, Setsuna hangs back, not sure how to approach. Taking Makoto's words the wrong way, she gets discouraged about the whole trip. Even worse, the teen hasn't said a thing about the number message, filling her with more uncertainty. Attempting to bring it up, Setsuna gets cut off by the others. Watching things from a distance, the girl hears both Katsura and Makoto casually using each other's first names. The friendly atmosphere continues to grow, with Kokoro nearly ready for the final push. Talking to Makoto in secret, the sister leaves the other two girls to chat for a bit. Grateful to Setsuna for coming with them, Katsura is enjoying this new experience. Mentioning Kokoro's plan, the older sibling is convinced that Makoto already has someone he's with. Bringing up the teen's previous brief relationship, Setsuna confirms that he's currently available. Asked if she likes Makoto, Katsura denies it, but the girl's feelings say otherwise. Switching partners, Makoto notices that Setsuna seems a bit off, but lightens up as he receives a half-joking answer to his question. Asked what Kokoro said to him, the teen mentions the forest being brought up, amazed at how bold people are. Encouraged to take advantage of the location, Makoto is more amused by the fact that he got this knowledge while surrounded by female friends. Getting more concerned about the crowds, the group decides on a course of action in case they lose track of each other. Right on cue, Kokoro disappears with Setsuna, but it ends up being a little more than they bargained for. Managing to break free, the anxious teen wants to get in contact with the missing party, but the mastermind prevents this from happening. Acting as a definitive romance test, the outcome lies entirely with Makoto. Elsewhere, the other two figure they should wait nearby, moving into the forest. Using the opportunity to talk, the pair continues to learn more about each other. Not sure what they should do about the crowd, Katsura makes a rather interesting proposal. Having innocent intentions, the girl worries about intruding on the viewpoints of other people nearby. Going out of his way to check on them, Makoto sees nothing but romantic couples wherever he looks. Returning with some sound advice, the teen is almost glad that Katsura is ignorant of their surroundings. Having a nice view of the shrine's tower, the two enjoy each other's company. Eventually, both of them try using their phones, but can't manage to get a hold of anyone. Wondering if he might be able to send a message to Setsuna instead, Makoto remembers the number sequence from the other day. While he tries different methods of figuring out the code, Katsura embraces the mood, making a move on the one next to her. Finalizing her confession, the girl is moments away from asking Makoto out, but as the last number gets typed, her window closes. Waiting for the pair to return, Kokoro comments on how her plan may have been a little too effective. Arriving a bit later, Katsura is expected to do something in return for the nice moment she was given. As the siblings leave, Makoto takes the opportunity to grab Setsuna's hand. Declaring his own feelings, the teen confirms the new relationship. Visiting Saionji the next morning, Setsuna reveals this development, though thankfully the friend is asleep, sparing her heart for the time being. Meeting her boyfriend for a date, the two are looking forward to spending the day together. Going to the movies, Makoto can't help but be a bit distracted. Glancing over several times, he eventually gets his wish as Setsuna leans closer and holds his hand. Afterwards, the girl admits that she isn't used to showing affection like that. Perking up, she's glad that things are progressing smoothly between them. With both of them being naive to the world of dating, the couple considers the outing to be a success. Saying their goodbyes, the two part ways at the station. Running into Kokoro, the teen learns that she had been waiting for him in the usual spot. Not knowing about his new relationship, the girl is still looking for a chance to help her sister in the romance department. The following day, Makoto is unexpectedly greeted by Katsura. Talking with him through the afternoon, it turns out that the young woman is quite skilled with a blade. Who saw that coming? As Setsuna swings by after work, she watches the two acting quite friendly together. Discussing the sword art that Katsura is familiar with, we're presented with arguably the most well-animated scene in the entire game. Excited for a demonstration, Setsuna isn't sure how to feel about the pair's closeness. Making her more insecure, the two make additional plans to see each other without a second thought. As Katsura heads out, the girlfriend joins her, aggravated with her lover's cluelessness. Listening to the other girl talk about the nice time she had, Setsuna can at least see that her intentions aren't malicious. Then again, these innocent feelings start to make way for something bolder, as Katsura mentions bringing a swimsuit for the next outing. Not wanting to pry earlier, she asks the acquaintance if Makoto has a girlfriend, but instead of just answering, Setsuna walks away without saying anything. The word of the day is communication. Returning home, the girlfriend worries about her competition, going as far as trying on her old swimsuit. Spotting the money her mom left for her while overseas, Setsuna uses some of it to get herself a new fit. Calling his girlfriend, Makoto brings up what happened at the beach, worried that a problem from work is still bothering her. Learning that the issue has to do with Katsura, the boyfriend assures his partner that nothing fishy is going on. Having a hard time convincing her, Makoto is eventually let off the hook after establishing their special names. Strategically planning to use her sex appeal, Setsuna wants them all to enjoy the waves after meeting. Hanging out, the brother then gets a call from Itaru, who's apparently not doing great away from her sibling. Being as supportive as he can, Makoto reads his sister a bedtime story over the phone. Elsewhere, Kokoro is glad to hear that her sister seems to be taking more initiative, surprised with her progress. Going further, Katsura wants to show off the sword that Makoto is so enamored with. The following morning, the girl visits the beach with a special weapon. If I can briefly pause for a moment, there's a funny little nod to school days when Makoto guesses what she brought. The teen even makes a familiar reference, being met with confusion. With certain reasons keeping them from looking at the blade outside, Makoto invites her to his place to view it there. Mentioning a second surprise for him, Katsura receives an additional callback to the previous game. About to cross the street, the pair notices that Shun is getting busy with someone in his car. Leaving the scene, Makoto gets reminded of his dad, remembering something he'd rather not think about. Spending the afternoon together once again, the two get ready to head back to the beach. Stating that she brought her swimsuit, Katsura has offered Makoto's room to get changed. Behaving himself, the teen goes outside while his guest prepares for the water. Caught by Kokoro, Makoto is given a hard time for not sticking to his routine. Making a grand appearance, Katsura receives the desired result, content with the reaction. Getting comfortable, the girl relaxes while Makoto fights temptation. Encouraging him to go further, Kokoro is quite satisfied with the situation. Catching Makoto in a questionable position, Setsuna puts a stop to the lewd activity with a well-placed kick. Finally bringing up the important information, Katsura is informed that the pair is going out. Discouraged by the news, she... Alright, Setsuna, I am really trying to push you as best girl here. But what do you mean you forgot to mention it? You were asked to your face and didn't answer. The word of the day is communication. Being lovely as always, Katsura is completely understanding about their forgetfulness. Feeling embarrassed, the girl decides to head home, leaving Setsuna content with her victory. Wait a minute. Hold on. Setsuna, did you withhold that knowledge on purpose? Shameful. Putting this aside, Makoto isn't quite as confident in this route, preferring to keep the relationship unannounced if possible. Unfortunately, someone else they know is already aware, filling the boyfriend with anxiety. Regardless, the two talk things out, wrapping up the evening with a nice view. Not doing quite as well, Katsura wishes she could forget about the previous event. Confronted by Kokoro, the older sister regrets to inform her that the romance plan isn't going to work out. Continuing to be met with positivity in regards to Makoto, Makoto, Katsura laments the fact that her feelings prevented a simplified relationship. Having Setsuna in mind, the girl makes an offhanded remark about the young man's preferences. Talking with her mother, Kokoro tries to wrap her head around this odd development. Worried this will affect their friendship, the sister is convinced to check when she can. The next day, Kokoro heads straight to the beach, not getting any new information about the situation. Rationalizing that the cause may have been an unintentional comment, Makoto considers the possibility. Asking the all-important question she's been holding onto, Kokoro is met with an optimistic response, glad they could keep things intact. At home, Makoto is told that Itaru called while he was out, making a note to call back the following night. Having a date the next evening, the boyfriend cooks for his partner, impressing her with his ability. Walking to the station, the couple ends the night with a kiss. Distracted by the nice moment, Makoto accidentally forgets about his sister. Thanks to this, Itaru runs away from home, arriving by train the next evening. Running into her near the waves, Setsuna is surprised by the sudden appearance. Learning about the missed call, the girlfriend realizes it may have been her fault. Not finding Makoto at the beach, Setsuna does her best to calm the sister down. Suddenly, Katsura shows up, also wanting to see the missing teen. Telling Itaru to play for a bit, the other girls start to talk about the encounter they had previously. Wondering if she was being too forceful, it seems Katsura really did enjoy her time with Makoto. Confirming that the relationship wasn't just a ploy, Setsuna brings up the honest feelings that led to them becoming a couple. Inquiring when she had the time to confess, the girlfriend mentions the phone trick that was brought up a day earlier. Receiving an apology, Katsura breaks into tears, realizing how close she was without even knowing. Catching the pair's attention, Shun is meeting up with the same woman he was with before. Recalling the other time he was in the area, Katsura unintentionally hits a little too close to home with her words. Asking Setsuna to keep this discussion a secret, the teen buries her feelings, not wanting to cause any trouble. Finishing her activities, Itaru is a lot messier than when she arrived. Heading to Makoto's place, the two walk inside, finding it empty. Needing a bath, the sister convinces Setsuna to join her out of necessity. As the brother finally comes home, he's surprised to find Itaru waiting for him. Told she shouldn't be bathing alone, the sibling invites Makoto to help her. Regrettably, Setsuna doesn't have enough time to reach cover, resulting in the lovers catching each other in an awkward position. Apologizing for the intrusion, Makoto goes on to report that he saw Saionji while he was out doing things. Walking to the station with her boyfriend, Setsuna waits for a kiss like before. Unfortunately, Makoto is more wary this time, not comfortable with an audience. Taking this in stride, Setsuna visits the supposedly sick friend, ready to confront her about faking her illness. Navigating through various lies, the girlfriend shows no mercy to the one with her back against the wall. Admitting that she went out, Saionji gets excited as she mentions her encounter with Makoto. Immediately crushing her dreams, Setsuna reveals that they're already a couple. Having a similar outcome to the previous route, this knockout blow continues to be quite effective. The next morning, Makoto is asked to bring his sister back home the following day. Taking her to the station, the brother sees the girl off again. Over at Radish, Shun comes to fill in as temporary manager. If you remember the previous route with Makoto getting jealous, pretty much the same thing happens here, but with some notable changes throughout. Bringing up her fight with Saionji, Setsuna talks it over with her boyfriend. Things gradually get romantic, only to be interrupted by the Kato sisters, annoying Makoto. Not able to get a hold of her boyfriend later on, the girl assumes it's because of the interruption, but in reality, it's Shun's fault. Heading over to Radish, the teen observes the manager skipping out on work. As the adult spots his daughter, he strikes up a conversation, awkwardly stumbling as he explains the passenger next to him. By the way, in case you were curious, that's Roka's mom. Running into the twins, Makoto is just in time to witness the two adults parting ways. Switching places with the mother, Futaba is the next person to jump into the car, aggravating the boyfriend. Coming across Setsuna by the beach, Makoto receives an apology for what he thinks is cheating. Assuming she wants to break things off to be with Shun, the teen is met with a confused response. Not messing around this time, Makoto is ready to completely walk away. Stating that he witnessed her with Shun in the office, the boyfriend continues to escalate his accusation. Interestingly, Setsuna is willing to avoid the man from now on, even promising to stop working at Radish. Not convinced, Makoto brings his girlfriend to the restaurant, wanting to show her something. Stopping in front of the office, the teen is ready to bring the truth to light. Throwing open the door, Shun and Futaba are caught right as their final act of lovemaking comes to fruition. Angered by the situation, Makoto thinks he knows what's going on, not realizing he went too far. Slapping her boyfriend, Setsuna can't handle this development, running out of the room. From here, I'm pretty sure the Paris ending can still be achieved depending on earlier choices. That said, combining certain scenes has left me uncertain, so we'll go with two additional endings at falls short. Returning home, Makoto learns that his mother had a conversation with Setsuna while he was out previously. Hearing that Shun visited as well, the teen gets abrasive towards the news, not wanting to hear about it. Told that he should help Setsuna with their relationship, Makoto is dumbstruck by the suggestion. Given the final piece of the puzzle, the boyfriend finally gets it, regretting his horrible actions. Calling her yields no result, so Makoto heads to Setsuna's place, being met by her father. Apologizing for what he did, the teen is met with understanding, as Shun's actions led to this outcome. Telling the boyfriend how bad Setsuna took things, the information doesn't quite sink in. Not having the necessary documents to see her, Makoto is out of luck. Unable to chase his partner, the young man simply gives up, finishing the route. The other ending follows the same development, but the two guys now have their conversation on the beach. Not only do we get more of Shun's backstory, but the father also talks about Setsuna's behavior and how it's affected her over the years. Giving everything to Saionji, the only thing the daughter ever asked for was the nickname Sechan. Thanks to the story, Makoto is finally clued in to the father's real identity. Bringing up his poor decisions with romance, Shun reveals what led to his current position. Hurt by his actions, Setsuna not only refused to address the man casually, but also kept the special nickname restricted. Forming a better connection with the man, Makoto is ready to find his girlfriend again, with Shun wishing him the best. Running off, the young man is determined to make things right. Stopping dead in his tracks, Makoto realizes that he can't do anything, finishing the route with no real conclusion. All of that said, if Makoto is so clueless when it comes to obtaining a passport, how the hell did he reach Setsuna the first time? Either way, we're down to our last major route, one that leads to a lot of new endings.
Hi, honey. Hi, honey.
Again, starting before Setsuna gets used to work, you'll notice that on the map, there are two potential variations that lead to very different outcomes. The key factor is when Makoto comes to Radish and gets met by the other two servers. Ordinarily, after a round of teasing and misinformation, the girls will give the young man Setsuna's address, where he then helps her memorize the menu. However, if Makoto blanks on his friend's name, a new set will come up, allowing him to say Yoko's name as a complete guess. Thinking he only used Setsuna's name to cover his involvement with the manager, the workers are convinced that something's going on between them. Doing his best to state otherwise, Makoto's words fall on deaf ears. Leaving in frustration, the team's reputation with the server surprisingly gets better. Using the class directory, Makoto locates where Setsuna lives, proceeding as usual. That said, the next day, Yoko is told about the surprise visitor who is looking for her. Wondering if she should pursue this opportunity, the manager is encouraged by the others to give it a shot. During the shift when Setsuna gets everything right, the workers recognize Makoto, offering to take him to see who he's been looking for. Not wanting the others to ruin the mood, no one tells the young man to come to the office alone. Walking inside, the waitress informs Yoko that a certain special someone is here to see her. Admitting that it's been quite some time since she's been involved with anyone, the manager is nervous, but excited. Getting a glimpse of the would-be suitor through the door, it seems Yoko approves of the visitor. Coming up with a number of excuses not to see him, the older woman has her hand forced, determined to grab this chance while she can. Getting some advice from no one, Yoko is ready to make a good impression. Sent inside, Makoto tries to leave after realizing he has the wrong person, but he quickly gets cut off by the manager. As Yoko comes on rather strong, it doesn't take long for the teen to get overwhelmed. Opening with a deep kiss, the woman is ready to go all the way with her new lover. Indulging in each other's bodies, the pair goes at it until the restaurant closes. Satisfied with her new boyfriend, Yoko exchanges numbers with her fixation. Spotting Setsuna by the beach, Makoto congratulates her on a successful shift, hearing the news through a different source. Getting the observation report from Manami, the office encounter is the same as before. However, realizing she isn't being met with as much resistance as usual, the consultant is vocal about the change. Keeping the reason under wraps for now, Yoko sends her friend off with a smile. Continuing her momentum, the woman immediately gives Makoto a call, making plans for the near future. Jumping right into the action, the very next scene shows the two getting busy again in the office. Unbeknownst to them, an unknown person is watching from a crack in the door. Going forward a bit, when Makoto brings his sister to Radish on her last day with them, Yoko is now the one who greets him at the front. Busy with work, the manager receives a positive boost of energy from her boyfriend. Showing him appreciation, the two share a bold kiss by the entrance. Later, as the woman gets ready to head overseas, her phone gets left behind by accident. Realizing this as she arrives at the airport, the issue gets worse, as she can't contact her boyfriend to let him know that she'll be gone for a while. Mentioning her problem to the others, they're initially judgmental, but secretly seem to be envious. After being invited to the festival by Kokoro, Makoto tries calling his girlfriend's phone presumably numerous times. Not getting a response, the teen immediately immediately assumes the worst, thinking he's been dumped. What happens next depends on certain factors, but for now we'll go with the vanilla ending. Regardless of the events, Makoto will go on to date Setsuna, leading to her going to Paris to join the other women. Arriving at the airport, the young man declares his love, being accepted by the one who left. In a more comedic twist, Yoko thinks that he came after her, getting to the boyfriend first. Accepting this outcome, Makoto leaves Setsuna stunned as a result. Shifting to a different ending, the teen is in the middle of fixing the children's shrine during the good route. Noticing that Makoto can't get a hold of someone, Kaden tries it in that the person would already be with him at the festival if she actually cared. Taking this as a sign, the young man decides it's for the best to give up on Yoko. Reporting this to Otome, the sisters continue to think this involves Yamagata, but are happy nonetheless. Giving Makoto some space, the two plan to visit him the following day. When Setsuna comes by, she's told that the teen is already involved with another person, but it isn't going to work out. Again talking to the empty room, Kaden returns to hear the speech, though it's slightly different from the original. While the repeated words are a little more effective this time, Makoto is still hung up on Setsuna, so the sister gets forceful. Telling him that the other girl is long gone, Kaden wants him to properly look at her. Admitting that he did care for Setsuna, Makoto takes the truth that's been handed to him, giving up on her as well. Resigning himself to these new circumstances, the young man returns Kaden's feelings. Getting busy at the shrine, the two cement their new relationship. Later, the couple meets up to have a date somewhere. Deciding on Radish, Kaden discovers that her boyfriend's old lover is inside. Wanting more answers, the girl charges ahead, giving Makoto a lot more than he bargained for. Demanding confirmation of his love, Kaden waits for a public kiss, only to be interrupted by the old girlfriend. As both girls claim him to be unfaithful, Makoto has no idea how to approach the situation. Unfortunately for the teen, it doesn't take long for things to get violent, ending the route with a bang. Also, it's worth noting that after completing each path, the title screen gets a different background that corresponds to the newest one. In this case, well, see for yourself. Moving right along, the next part involves the other two women, leading to some spicy developments. Just after Setsuna memorizes the menu, Mai comes home talking about remarriage, as Yoko's initial excitement about the admirer rubs off on her. Following the manager's intimate time with Makoto, she gets a call from the other woman, wondering about her work progress. Showing up to help, Mai is curious about the reason why she wasn't able to finish preparing. Recalling the nice day she spent with her boyfriend, Yoko is coy about her activities, getting on the friend's nerves. Elsewhere, Makoto is doing his best to avoid bothering his new girlfriend. Unable to resist calling her, the two have a nice conversation, piquing Mai's interest. Content with their standing, Yoko offers to invite Makoto to satisfy the friend's curiosity. Calling him back, the teen arrives within minutes, more than willing to come to the restaurant. Allowing Yoko to finish her work, the other two move to the balcony, where Makoto explains what led to this situation. Being honest about his attraction, Mai teases him a bit, but doesn't particularly have a problem with it. Surprising him with a bold offer, the woman is willing to have some fun while they wait for Yoko. Meant to be a joke, Mai doesn't expect the young man to immediately get romantic, going on to enjoy the results. Not getting any action in quite some time, the woman decides to continue, until she hears Manami enter the building. Called in for reasons unrelated to the paperwork, the busty individual gets aggravated by the distraction. Having her own good impression of Makoto now, Mai wants to gauge the other friend's reaction. As expected, the woman is quite shocked to learn that he's dating Yoko. Going further, Mai admits to their own intimacy just moments ago. Planting a dangerous seed, Setsuna's mother brings up Manami's rocky relationship. As the agitated woman makes a phone call, Makoto tries to resume the earlier fun, but Mai convinces him otherwise. Shifting focus over to Manami, the young man gets teased as he stares a little too hard. As Mai gradually helps Yoko with the work, she gives Makoto another push to indulge himself. Taking the opportunity to interrogate him, Manami learns a number of different things, not amused with the teen's behavior. Realizing she can use this information to blackmail him, the woman shocks Makoto with the truth of Mai's identity. Feeling him up as a way to make him more guilty, Manami is completely on the offensive. Continuing her momentum, Makoto is told about Yoko as well. With her forceful contact being too much for him, the teen latches onto Manami, unable to hold back anymore. Claiming that she's just playing hard to get, Makoto gets more involved, watching the aggressor drop her resistance. Losing herself in pleasure, Manami eventually goes all the way with him, enjoying the act for the first time in a while. Getting a bit creative, Makoto's technique delivers the finishing blow, leaving the woman completely enamored with him. This flippant personality is already pretty wild, but things only escalate from here. While the two lovers were getting better acquainted, the other women managed to finish up the paperwork. Heading outside, the assets change to CG, and I'm sorry, but you will never understand how funny this visual is without playing. Behind this mosaic is a blocky Makoto receiving service from a blocky Manami, and they are not the least bit obscured by the thin sign next to them. Regardless, the pair doesn't notice, walking past them to get ready for their trip. Finishing the risky display, Makoto makes a reasonable comment as morning starts to arrive. Not wanting to let him go, Manami goes the extra mile, calling the two friends and telling them to leave without her. Driving home, the mother explains her presence to the daughters that assumed she'd be gone. Being especially accommodating, the woman does everything she can to get them out of the house. Waking Makoto up, the two proceed to spend the entire day indulging themselves in different rooms. Hearing the girls return from their outing, Manami panics, acting quickly so the teen isn't found. Distracting her daughters, the mother creates an opening for Makoto to leave. Unfortunately, Kokoro returns soon after, surprised to see the person she's been looking for since yesterday. With everything being explained away by circumstance, Makoto receives an invitation for the festival, taking that as his cue to head out. Reeling over the recent events, the teen is amazed by the sheer amount of coincidence. Asked if he's gotten involved with his sisters, Makoto claims that he hasn't, preferring the intensity of the older woman. Being dropped off near his place, the young man runs into Setsuna, who doesn't have a clue what he's been through. Stuck between two attractive women, the young man has quite the decision to make. The next morning, Manami tries to tag along with her daughters to the festival, but gets refused almost instantly. Listening to Kokoro talk about her plan to win over the popular guy, the mother secretly makes her own arrangements. After Makoto and Katsura get separated, the conversation in the forest goes a bit differently thanks to certain factors. Attempting her confession, the girl is interrupted by a sudden appearance from her mother, with only Katsura returning to the group. The missing individual stays behind to attend to other matters. This is where the route ends, but after the credits, Makoto finds himself in the middle of a war. Watching from inside, Setsuna is anything but happy about the situation. As expected, the fight intensifies outside, with both women insisting that they're the better choice. Helping Makoto get away, Setsuna carefully brings him inside the restaurant. Clueless as usual, the teen has no sense of accountability whatsoever. Arriving on the scene, Kaden and the twins saw the fireworks outside, concerned for Makoto's safety. Leaving with the other girls, it seems the young man is off the hook, for now. In an alternate path, Makoto proclaims his love for Mai out on the balcony. Convincing Manami to help with Yoko's paperwork, the other two try to figure out a location where they can be together in private. Telling her daughter to sleep over at Saionji's place, the lovers go back to Setsuna's apartment, getting busy within moments. Much like the other instance, Makoto is forced to stay hidden as another person comes home. While this scene leads elsewhere, I'd first like to tie it together with a different variation for convenience sake. Nearly identical to the route that involves Manami, this one leads to the same conclusion. However, instead of the other girls, Mai shows up at the restaurant. Noticing the fight that's going on outside, the mother wants Setsuna to help the one caught in the middle. Being snuck inside, Makoto is grateful to learn that Mai was responsible for the rescue. Comforted by the older woman, the young man is ready to escape by her side. Making a bold declaration before he goes, Makoto wants to be a family with the other two girls. Guess that's one more fucked up branch for the family tree. That aside, back during Makoto's second encounter with Yoko, you may remember that I mentioned someone watching the two of them from outside the office. This is where the twins come into play. Ordinarily, these girls are constantly getting the short end of the stick when it comes to Makoto. They're either busy doing something else, or chased away by Kaden at every opportunity. This route marks the start of their offensive. Just before the festival, Kaden tries to invite Makoto via cell phone. Missing the call, he usually ignores it in favor of going with the usual group. This time, he calls back, being answered by Futaba. Learning of his plans that evening, the girl takes the opportunity to head to his place in the meantime. Hanging up, Futaba wants her sister's cooperation for an idea she has in mind. Working as a tag team, the siblings report that Makoto is too busy to go out, and also make up a lie that Otome is on her way over. Keeping Kaden busy with this information, the twins are free to act as they please without causing suspicion. Bringing up what happened at the restaurant, it turns out that Futaba was the one who witnessed the secret meeting in the office. Making a correct assumption that Yoko forcefully took the lead, the confident sibling wants to get Makoto away from her. Appealing to the shy twin, the girl wants to do everything she can to bring the two together. Easily convinced to go along with the enticing plan, Kazuha Kazuha is ready to become Makoto's new girlfriend. Entering the apartment, the sisters are met with a warm reception. Watching Makoto sit on his bed, Futaba directs the first attack, with both siblings occupying space on either side of him. Continuing the assault, the girl claims that the young man's gaze has been wandering since they got there. Willing to show him everything, Futaba proves her intentions with an opening kiss. Being rather forward, the young woman's boldness catches Makoto off guard. As both girls feel him up, the teen's resistance starts to fade away. Taking the lead, Futaba gives her lover some service, encouraging Kazuha to join her. Finishing their foreplay, the team leader keeps her word, standing back while the other two go all the way. That said, once they're done, the spectator undresses, ready for round 2. Making an agreeable deal with his sister, Futaba wants to share Makoto's body, while Kazuha can keep the rest of him to herself. Going all night long, the trio completely forgets about the festival, with the other girls who waited for the young man going home disappointed. During an interesting alternate route, the girls make it to Makoto's building, entering the elevator with another woman. Overhearing their plan, the other person interrupts, annoyed by their intrusion. Claiming the young man for herself, Manami makes a surprise appearance. Still obsessed with Makoto, she immediately gets busy with her lover, spending the night with him. As long as we're on the twins, there's one last variation they're involved in. This is when Setsuna invites Makoto to the festival in the good route. Running into the twins after dropping his sister off, the teen decides to stop by Radish, being joined by the other two. Greeted by Setsuna, the waitress isn't sure what to make of the irregular group. Taking their order, the server isn't a fan of the competition her love interest brought with him. However, as the topic shifts to Itaru, the atmosphere lightens up, with Futaba taking notice of this. While Kazuha struggles to pick an item from the menu, the other sibling takes advantage of the distraction, asking Makoto about the festival. Seemingly forgetting his previous plans after the all-nighter, the young man agrees to go with the twins in front of Setsuna. Deciding to go back to his place after the food, the trio is left alone as the waitress ends her shift prematurely. From here, the three get things going like before, but with one notable change. Before going all the way, Futaba gets Makoto to declare his love for them alone, only having sex after this has been confirmed. She also takes the first turn this time, with Kazuha following suit once they're done. Continuing through the evening, the scene shifts over to Setsuna on the train. Recalling the thoughtless words of Makoto, the girl loses her confidence, assuming she's not good enough for him. To wrap up this segment, I'm going to return to the route where Makoto gets involved with Yoko, as well as Mai. Watching him reunite with Setsuna at the airport, the other women keep their distance for the time being, having their own feelings for him. The mothers aren't willing to give up just yet. After the credits, the group is back home in Japan, but all three women are now pregnant. Dumbfounded by this development, Saionji is encouraged to join them, but she still has no idea what to make of this. Continuing to pressure her, the girls hear Makoto coming inside, ending with the implication that the remaining love interest also becomes a mother. And speaking of Saionji,
I don't think I love you.
unlike her overwhelming presence in school days, Saionji barely has any screen time in Shiny Days. That said, there are 5 select routes that directly involve her, though naturally, all of them have different outcomes. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to actually reach any of these particular endings. I used a detailed guide, and I tried my own series of choices, but I just wasn't able to cross the threshold. Regardless, these aren't terribly long, so I'll condense them with the use of the wiki and some additional assets. All of the routes at this point happen immediately after Setsuna and Makoto get caught making love in the restaurant. Following the girlfriend's departure for Paris, the young man starts to talk with Saionji more, given that she's Setsuna's closest friend. Leaving her job to Yamagata, Saionji bonds more with Makoto, spending a lot of time with him at the beach. After a few days, the girl gets a surprise phone call from Setsuna. While she's told it would be better for them to break up, the girlfriend has actually decided to forgive Makoto, blaming herself for what happened. Claiming that jealousy is a strong indication of love, Setsuna goes on to mention how good the boyfriend is in bed, for some reason. Still having her own feelings for him, Saionji wants them to split for her own sake, but the lover is determined to come back to rekindle things with Makoto. At the same time, Yoko wants to return as well, as her relationship with the teen is up in the air. Getting on a plane, the trio of women make their way back to Japan. Not having much time to make a move, Saionji starts to panic. Presumably getting the phone call later in the evening, the girl makes plans with Makoto to see a movie the next day. Unfortunately, the Paris group has already arrived, with the two teens encountering Mai on the train. It seems the mother isn't completely aware of what's going on, as she lets Saionji know that Setsuna is currently in a nearby hotel. Never having met Makoto in this route, Mai is curious if the pair is dating. The young man says they aren't, but before he can explain further, Saionji leaves the train with him in tow. Deciding it would be safer elsewhere, she brings the love interest back to her place. After the two talk for a bit, Makoto feels that his current relationship won't work out. Convincing him that this is the case, Saionji makes her move, confessing to the one she's loved for a while now. Coming onto him quite fiercely, the teen isn't sure how to react. Ready to take things to the next level, the girl wants to clean herself up a bit first. Thinking more about Setsuna, Makoto still doesn't want to give up on her, so he decides to leave for the hotel. However, as he heads to the exit, Yoko appears before him, amazed that he's waiting for her at home. Explaining the situation to her boyfriend, the woman doesn't waste any time, pouncing on her lover. Coming out of the shower, Saionji is prepared, but finds her room empty. Hearing a strange noise across the hall, the daughter opens the door, discovering the two taking care of business. Mentioning their relationship, Yoko shocks Makoto with the news that she's Saionji's mother. Regardless, after a bit of persuasion, the daughter joins in with the other two. Finishing up, Yoko steals the final kiss for herself, willing to share Makoto, but not give him away. Moving to the next path, everything is the same until the scene on the train. This time around, Makoto tells Mai that he is dating Saionji, but he only does this to avoid further questioning. Hoping that this can be explained later on, the two again head back to the girl's apartment. Unlike before, Makoto is far more negative about his standing with Setsuna, assuming that she's been saying horrible things about him. However, when the topic of his ability in bed comes up, Saionji claims that the girlfriend actually praised him in this area. Inviting the friend to experience this for herself, Makoto is now the one to forcefully declare his love. Over at the hotel, Setsuna's parents talk about the situation with her boyfriend. Hearing that Mai ran into the pair on the train, the daughter takes off running, knowing where to go. Bursting through the door, Setsuna is too late, as the two have already finished the act. Watching her tear up, Saionji wants her lover to openly confirm his feelings. Acting with his usual smoothness, Makoto invites the girlfriend into a threesome, finishing the route with an intense kick to the head. Oddly enough, there's actually another version that kind of rolls with the idea. This one comes after his lewd escapades with Yoko and her daughter. Following this, he falls asleep, waking up tied to a chair at Setsuna's place. Forgiving him for going behind her back, the girlfriend has special things in store for Makoto. Making her intentions clear, Setsuna is fully dressed in quite the outfit. Making things more interesting, her mother plans to join in as well. Looking to get revenge on the two rivals, this tag team is ready to discipline Makoto their way. Becoming a little too popular, the teen ends their route with a cry for help. Not going to lie, I kind of love this ending just because it's so out of pocket for Setsuna, though given how she carries herself, the girl may actually have a knack for this kind of thing. Following this, we move to a more wholesome path that acts as a true ending of sorts. When the teens talk about Setsuna, Makoto doesn't think that she'd say bad things about him, fully believing in her. Realizing she has no chance with him, Saionji becomes more charitable, telling the young man to head to the hotel. Before he leaves the room, Yoko is heard returning home, being greeted by the daughter. Discovering that she brought some male company over, the mother gets curious, but Saionji reminds her that her boyfriend could be looking for her at the restaurant. Knowing that she's right, Yoko quickly heads out, not wanting to miss him. Overhearing the conversation, Makoto realizes that he had been dating Saionji's mom, deciding to cut ties with her then and there. As he heads to the hotel, Setsuna gets a call from her friend. Giving her a test, Saionji claims that the boyfriend doesn't care about her anymore, waiting to hear the girl's response. Receiving an answer similar to the one she got from Makoto, the friend is in disbelief at how compatible they are. Being told the truth, Setsuna learns that her partner is already on the way over. After the credits, the family takes a group picture together, showing that everything ended up working out. It's also implied that Shun managed to repair his relationship with the others, and to my knowledge, I don't believe this gets shown beforehand. Unfortunately for Yoko, her boyfriend never returns, leaving her depressed with this outcome. That said, the final route flips the situation in her favor. Heading to the hotel, Makoto gets caught by Yoko outside. As Saionji never specifies the person waiting for him, the teen assumes that he just found them earlier than intended. Mentioning his initial destination, the woman takes it as a hint, heading over with her boyfriend for a romantic get-together. Getting the call from Saionji earlier, Setsuna's family waits all evening for Makoto to show up. Sadly, the route ends after the two lovers finish having their fun, being observed by the group as they walk away. Before we get into the final section, I'm going to take the opportunity to talk about the other endings we haven't gotten to yet. Starting off near the beginning, Makoto can joke with Setsuna that Itaru is actually actually his girlfriend. Watching him head home, things come to a close as the girl gets a very skewed image of the teen. In the next route, Makoto tries to convince Setsuna that he already has a girlfriend. Interrupting them, Kaden makes an appearance, not planning to stick around for long. Seeing how well she gets along with Makoto, Setsuna wonders if the visitor is the person in question. Trying to save face, the young man confirms that they are in fact going out. Being left alone, Kaden couldn't be happier with this sudden confession, glad to know that her love interest cares about her too. Concluding with one last scene, it seems that everything is proceeding smoothly, with even Itaru getting along with the new girlfriend. After this path, Makoto can choose not to approach Setsuna by the beach, killing any future conversation. This time around, Otome is the one playing with the little sister. Briefly mentioning Setsuna, the teen is mildly disappointed that they haven't been able to talk more. Equating this to his usual antics, the girls have a laugh as this route prematurely ends, showcasing another short encounter. This one has Makoto get Setsuna's address from the two workers like usual. However, upon arriving outside of the girl's apartment, the brother gets cold feet, wanting to avoid trouble at all costs. Again spending time with Otome, Makoto's thoughts are the same as before. Interestingly, the girl makes a comment stating that she isn't responsible for Setsuna's absence. Given what we know about Otome, it's obvious what she's referring to. Ending in a similar fashion, the peaceful days continue on. The next route is far spicier, picking up during the good route when Hikari brings Makoto to the forest. You may recall that just before coming to the festival, the girl requested a special drink for energy. The strange recipe did supply this, but not in the way she was expecting. As Hikari watches other couples get busy in private, her own level of arousal shoots through the roof, losing control of herself as she joins in from afar. Naturally, Makoto watches in disbelief as this happens right in front of him for a while. Unable to hold back anymore, the teen decides to help her scratch the itch. Not having much resistance to begin with, Hikari goes along with it, crossing the finish line soon after. Ready to get serious, the pair goes all the way, ending with a bang. While Makoto is satisfied, his partner isn't, though only because she wasn't able to finish with him. Wanting to go again, Hikari mentions the necessity of finding a different location, as the person that was actually going to show up may interrupt them. Putting these odd circumstances aside, Hikari's usual behavior changes, falling for Makoto in place of Yamagata. Deciding to continue at his place, the young man escorts his lover elsewhere. Later, Hikari defends herself against accusations from her friend, claiming it was her fault that all of this happened. Dropping the subject, Yamagata inquires about certain plans, but the other girl has gotten a lot busier as of late. As Hikari tries to reveal something to Setsuna, the friend fiercely objects to saying anything. Watching her ask the waitress if she likes Makoto, Yamagata finally caves, agreeing to pay more than the usual amount. Counting the money, Hikari recommends a sketchy job to the one who needs more cash. Interrupted by a phone call, the busy girl gets a positive report from another satisfied customer. Being told that she's good to go, Yamagata quickly leaves the restaurant. Mentioning her new product is Setsuna, the scene ends as the saleswoman delivers an enticing pitch. Basically, after experiencing the goods for herself, Hikari didn't date Makoto, but instead formed an entire business around him servicing a variety of girls. Wow. Going back to the earlier route where Kaden wins over Makoto, another variation starts right after they finish making love. Sitting behind a portable shrine, the two remain secluded as they hear a group of adults coming into the room. Otome is also with them, wondering what happened to her sister. Noticing the broken condition of the children's shrine, the tomboy gets curious, deciding to look it over herself. Kissing her boyfriend, Kaden is looking to go again, but Makoto is far more cautious given the current situation. Managing to convince him, the couple starts to get busy, but it doesn't take long for Otome to find them. Shaken at the sight of them together, the tomboy is devastated that she missed her shot. Filling in the clueless boyfriend on her sister's crush, Kaden has an idea to resolve the issue. As Makoto confesses to Otome, the words aren't entirely effective, but the sibling knows how to manipulate the situation. Kaden claims that the young man had always liked her, and with him echoing these sentiments, the elder sister completely falls for the ruse. Throwing out a few more questions, Otome is quickly given answers by her clever sibling. Kaden offers to let her sister get intimate with Makoto, but the girl continues to hesitate. The older sister eventually gets checked on by a family associate, but she manages to send him back to the party without getting suspicious. Pulling a divider curtain across the area, Otome finally caves in, willing to indulge herself with Makoto. Watching them go all the way, Kaden encourages her sister to enjoy the experience, even joining in partway through. Regrettably, as Otome crosses the finish line, she grabs the divider in a fit fit of ecstasy, accidentally pulling it down. The scene ends with all three of them being exposed to the celebration in the other room. Similar to the premature endings where Makoto can't reach Setsuna in Paris, there's a third variation, but he literally just gives up in his room, so it's barely worth mentioning. At the very least, we get a little more context in regards to his time with Yamagata in middle school, though not much else happens outside of this. The final route takes place after Makoto gets involved with Yoko at the restaurant. Moving to the festival, he and Katsura are waiting out the crowd in the forest. Recalling Kokoro's words of encouragement, Makoto chastises himself for not making a move on the girl that brought him out here. Forcing himself on her, the young man declares his love as he undresses his companion. Making a valid point, Katsura states that if he really cared about her, he wouldn't be doing this. Being kicked away, the teen apologizes for his actions, feeling discouraged about the refusal. However, now that things have calmed down, Katsura decides to give the young man another chance. Despite everything, the girl says that she likes him too, wanting him to be gentle as they continue. Keeping that promise, the two properly get started. Using the techniques he learned from Yoko, Makoto provides Katsura with an amazing experience. Claiming to be his first time, the teen slips up with a few comments, but brushes these off to avoid suspicion. Finishing up, the new couple has started their relationship with a bang. Making their way back, the two return to the others hand in hand. Glad that her plan was successful, Kokoro is surprised at just how effective it was. Upset by the news, Setsuna leaves the others behind, going home alone. Fast forwarding to the next school semester, Saionji notes how her mother found out about the new girlfriend. Interrupting these thoughts, a certain couple makes an appearance, looking quite happy together. Delivering a swift kick, Setsuna warns Makoto against any future cheating. Receiving some nice words from the girl, Katsura ends the scene with a smile. An alternate version can also take place if you don't meet Yoko beforehand. Everything is roughly the same, but the dialogue between the girls is different as they walk to school. The only other change comes after Makoto gets kicked, where Setsuna drops the cheating comment, leaving Katsura to enjoy her relationship. It's also worth mentioning that certain choice combinations can lead to extra scenes within a route. For instance, if the main couple can't decide on a movie to watch during their outing, there's a chance they'll wind up at an adult theater instead. Giving Setsuna an idea for the next date can also provide a bit of foreshadowing. Now at this point, just about all of the girls have had their respective encounters with Makoto. The only one that hasn't is Yamagata, who's been wanting a shot at romance herself. So, does she manage to pull this off? Well, depending on certain choices, kind of. While Yamagata doesn't receive a dedicated ending, there is an additional scene with her after Setsuna leaves for Paris during the good route. Taking over the girlfriend's position at work, Yamagata ends up having sex with Makoto right there in the middle of the restaurant before they open. It seems this has been going on for a while, and the girl still can't believe how lucky she is. Sadly, it quickly becomes apparent what Makoto's intentions are with this relationship. Pouring her heart out to the one she cares about, Yamagata gets cut off rather abruptly. Claiming that he's still dating Setsuna, Makoto only got involved with the waitress to pass the time. But it's okay, because he's going to bring her back a souvenir? What the fuck? You know, as far as best girl material, Yamagata isn't too bad, though she may have even worse luck than Katsura. Either way, that marks all of the available routes in Shiny Days, with the exception of a select few. You've seen the thumbnail, so it should be clear where we're headed. With that said, welcome to the Abyss.
Jesus, please.
That's right. With a total of 7 possible routes, Kokoro is a romanceable character in Shiny Days. Naturally, players will find themselves falling into one of two camps here. Regardless, within the context of the story, certain aspects get really bad really fast. I'm going to start with the best outcome, then gradually move to the worst. Starting after Katsura finds out that Makoto is dating Setsuna, we're back at the point when Kokoro renews her friendship with the teen. Later that night, the girl gets a call from a friend she attends tutoring classes with, going by Uzuki. Asking for a favor, the student plans to skip, hoping that Kokoro can cover for her. Agreeing to this, the sociable girl mentions what happened earlier with Makoto, glad they can still hang out. Assuming there might be more to the situation, Uzuki wonders if her classmate has feelings for the teen. Denying this to be the case, Kokoro is met with disagreement, told it's all but guaranteed that something is there. Mentioning the relationship she has with their tutor, it seems that Uzuki is in a dangerous situation. Convinced that it's perfectly perfectly normal, Kokoro decides that she'll take Makoto for herself. The next day, the girl meets him on the beach like usual. Making plans for the following afternoon, Kokoro suggests for them to go to the theater. Initially refusing due to a lack of money, Makoto eventually agrees, learning that tickets will be free for both of them. Looking forward to the outing, he has no idea about the girl's real intentions. Meeting up later on, the two grab a train, talking about other things they could do next time. Arriving at the theater, this is where the young man has a chance encounter with Sayonji, who's been perfectly healthy for a while now. Going inside, Kokoro does her best to engage with the romantic drama, but ultimately can't bring herself to care. Coming back from the movie, Makoto has a bit of fun, teasing Kokoro for sleeping through the experience. Taking advantage of a lull in the conversation, the girl leans against the teen, perfectly content with their time together. Getting ready to part ways, Kokoro notices something sitting on Makoto's head. Asking him to bend down, the friend uses this positioning to steal a kiss, shocking the one on the receiving end. Elsewhere, Katsura and Setsuna are having the same conversation about Makoto, with the former being more understanding about the circumstances. Stating that there's no bad blood between them, the couple considers the other girl to be a friend. Very much receptive to Katsura's company, the girlfriend wants her to feel comfortable spending time with the pair. Giving the friend a special nickname, Setsuna successfully connects with her new companion. Going further, the two want to keep in contact, looking forward to more casual interactions. Running into Makoto, Katsura is in much higher spirits during this encounter, becoming happier as she officially makes her second proper friend. Mentioning his outing with Kokoro, the teen leaves out the last part, encouraging them all to hang out in the future. Thinking more about the kiss from Kokoro, Makoto isn't sure what her intentions were. Over at her place, the sociable girl is already recounting what happened to Uzuki, who's happy for her classmate. Going on to describe another act of affection between the two of them, the friend inspires Kokoro to go after something similar. Correcting her, Uzuki explains what she was actually referring to. Hoping for some kind of guidance from her classmate, Kokoro is instead told why their tutor is beyond saving. Recalling a meeting they had previously, Uzuki mentions how a certain phrase got her some promising results. Being encouraged to try it out for herself, Kokoro is willing to give it a shot. Visiting Makoto the following day, the girl is chipper as usual. Still hung up on what happened at the station, the teen realizes that a certain urge is starting to awaken. As the friend tells a story, Makoto's gaze wanders elsewhere. Doing his best to avoid a bad situation, the young man continues to be tempted by his companion. Deciding it would be better to leave, Makoto apologizes as he heads out early. Getting in close, Kokoro does her best to keep the love interest at the beach, but she gets pushed away in moments. Stating that this whole thing feels wrong, Makoto puts a stop to it then and there. Left alone by the waves, Kokoro has no idea how fortunate she is compared to other outcomes. Reflecting on what happened, Makoto reaffirms his love for his girlfriend later that night. Over on Katsura's end, it seems that she's gotten very close to Setsuna in a short period of time. After this, the events leading up to the couple catching Shun are the same, with Makoto learning that his partner has gone to Paris. Watching him sulk on the beach, Katsura is willing to listen to whatever is bothering him. Offering to help in any way she can, the girl's kindness gets misinterpreted. Going on to declare his love for her, Makoto takes advantage of the situation, stepping in for a kiss. Unable to reciprocate these feelings, Katsura hits him away with a nearby plank of wood. Moving forward to the airport reunion, Makoto is now bandaged up after the beating he took. Sending her friend a text about the delivery, Katsura's message consists of a single line, simply reading, "From Kotopi to Sechan." As much as I like Setsuna, it's hard to beat that. Despite not having any remaining competition and receiving a direct confession from the person she liked, Katsura still put her friend's feelings over her own. If that's not best girl material, I don't know what is. Well, that was wholesome. Let's get back to the pain, shall we? The next route continues from the point when Makoto is trying to maintain himself on the beach. Again holding him close, Kokoro makes the mistake of telling her love interest that they're on the same page. Delivering the finishing blow, she uses the line she got from her friend, waiting for a response. Thanks to this, something inside of Makoto snaps, allowing his dark desires to come to the surface. Holding Kokoro down, the teen crosses a line he can't come back from. Having his head smashed with a rock partway through, this only manages to stop the young man temporarily, continuing despite the injury. Finishing up, the girl takes it in stride, helping Makoto to dress his wound afterwards. Apologizing for his reckless actions, the teen feels guilty about what happened, but Kokoro tries to downplay it, insisting it wasn't a big deal. That said, as Makoto reaches his hand out, the girl recoils in fear, clearly bothered by what happened. Watching her run home, the young man knows that he messed up in a major way. Getting a call from Setsuna later that night, night, Makoto brings up the injury in passing, using it as an excuse to dodge a visit from his girlfriend. Pleasuring himself with thoughts of Kokoro before going to bed, the guilt fades away as the teen fully embraces his new way of life. The following morning, Katsura reports that her younger sister isn't acting like her usual self. Skipping meals, Kokoro leaves the others wondering what's going on. Over at the beach, Makoto uses his last remaining brain cell to properly think about his actions. Wondering how Kokoro is holding up, he recalls what led him down the path of no return. Waiting by himself all afternoon, Makoto is somehow amazed that the girl didn't show up. Approached from behind by Setsuna, the boyfriend immediately becomes affectionate. This quickly changes after he notices Shun together with his girlfriend, leaving early the next day so that he doesn't run into her. Shifting to Kokoro's house, the girl still isn't sure how to deal with what happened. Katsura can't get anything out of her, so she heads back upstairs to catch up on some sleep. Remembering what she went through, Kokoro continues to feel conflicted about the lewd act. Wanting to grab some food, the girl heads outside, running into Makoto by coincidence. Noticing that he seems a bit worn down, Kokoro becomes slightly concerned. Curious about what he's up to, the teen brings up the problem he's currently facing. Expressing remorse for what he did, Makoto assumes that karma is coming back to bite him in the ass. Feeling bad for him, Kokoro offers to give the young man shelter, provided he behaves himself this time. Coming inside, Makoto repays her kindness with a home-cooked meal. Impressed with his ability, Kokoro is told about the teen's family situation, including the fact that he isn't a fan of his dad. Going on to discuss what constitutes cheating, the girl plainly states that sex is the deciding factor, shocking the one who is trying to avoid the topic. Claiming that she was initially really surprised by the act, Kokoro has come to accept it as part of their relationship, knowing people in love will naturally do that. Willing to try again, the girl is ensured that it won't be the same as before, guaranteed a more gentle approach. Things start off simple, with the two holding each other close for a while. Gradually, they end up getting far more involved. While this is going on, Katsura can be seen sleeping in her room. As the pair continues, the scene cuts back, showing that the bed is now empty. Right as the two finish, Katsura knocks out Makoto with a golf club, not sure what to make of this situation. Confusing her further, Kokoro is doing just fine, leaving the savior with even more questions. Returning home, Makoto is once again recovering from a head injury. Running an errand for his mother, the teen ends up finding Katsura outside. Talking with the girl, she thinks that he went too far with his actions, wanting him to stay away from Kokoro. Agreeing to this, Makoto tries to justify himself in quite the creative way. Mentioning that his current relationship is dead in the water, this became the reason he went with someone else. Receiving an apology, Katsura becomes more accepting, shifting the blame to Kokoro. The two go back and forth on who's at fault, but eventually, Makoto takes the out he's been generously given. Under the guise of keeping tabs on her sister, Katsura plans to spend more time with the young man. Interrupting the two of them, Kokoro accuses the other girl of getting in her way, perfectly content staying with Makoto. Watching the siblings argue over him, the teen is then confronted by both Setsuna and Shun. Completely misunderstanding the situation, Makoto leaves his former girlfriend to the older man, accepting his loss. Unable to get through to him, Setsuna watches her partner leave with the other two girls, effectively ending their relationship. A lot of time passes, with Katsura now trying to make holiday plans with Makoto. Cutting her off, Kokoro clings to the teen, not allowing him to be stolen away. Suggesting an outing for all three of them, the younger sister leaves Katsura disappointed. Preventing a fight, Makoto holds the two siblings close, looking forward to this special day. Ending here, this is essentially the main route that involves Kokoro, but another variation brings the whole family together. Pardon my visuals, I couldn't get this one to work either. Taking place immediately after Makoto wakes up with his second head injury, the two siblings argue over what happened. Arriving home soon after this, Manami starts to question Katsura. Only able to hold out for so long, the girl panics, making an excuse to leave the house. Getting a call from Yoko, Manami reports that Makoto is apparently cheating on her, with both Setsuna and the daughter that ran away. Following up on an earlier request, the woman heads to Radish to find the friend's cell phone. Checking the lock screen, Manami recognizes Makoto from her time at the restaurant. The same conversation happens between the two teens, but this time, Kokoro never shows up. After Katsura leaves, Manami makes an appearance, locating the young man by the beach. If you recall her intimidation tactics earlier in the video, you won't be the least bit surprised by the fact that the exact same thing happens here. Much like the good route with Setsuna, Makoto makes love to Manami on the beach. Given her obsessive behavior with the young man, the woman puts his earlier transgressions aside. Calling Yoko after this encounter, Makoto breaks up with her then and there. Moving to the final holiday scene, the girls are more competitive now. Kokoro Kokoro is looking to bring Makoto along with her to a party, and Katsura's restaurant invitation is now exclusively for him. Throwing her own hat in the ring, Manami makes a claim of her own. Ordinarily, this is where it ends, but a different outcome can result depending on an earlier choice. Namely, while Makoto is getting busy with the older woman, he can choose to finish with her or without her. Doing the former adds an additional detail to the final scene, as the mother is now pregnant. As they all take notice, Makoto alludes to wanting the other two to follow suit, and if you think that's bad, just wait till you see what comes next. To start with, when Makoto goes after Kokoro on the beach, certain prior choices can make his behavior carry over to Setsuna. Intoxicated by the earlier pleasure he felt, the teen nearly forces his girlfriend to do something against her will. Thankfully, the same interruption happens, with him falling in the water before he goes too far. Going forward, Makoto sulks on his own, as Kokoro is now actively hiding from him. After Setsuna goes to Paris, the young man spots the other girl outside. From here, Makoto's interaction with Shun dictates which of the last 4 endings the player can get. The first 2 eventually bring the boyfriend back to Paris. If Kokoro runs away, the conversation will take a blunt turn, earning the teen the same bandages he got from Katsura. Next, if the girl is caught by Shun, Makoto can apologize for his actions. Promising to keep his distance, Kokoro takes him on his word, ending things amicably. Being caught again, the girl can be met with silence, prompting her to confirm the reasoning behind Makoto's forceful actions. Met with a satisfactory answer, Kokoro forgives him, resulting in the two declaring their love for each other. While the scene shifts to Paris like normal, this time, Mai gets a call from Shun, advising Setsuna to forget about her boyfriend. Letting them use the restaurant, the manager allows the new couple to have a loving reunion. Recalling his youth, the older man sees himself in Makoto. Getting busy with Futaba, the family tree's branches continue to get mangled. The final ending shows Makoto unable to contain himself, especially now that he's found her again. Shun sends the same message, and the restaurant scene is similar. However, in this iteration, Kokoro is not having a good time, forced to endure while her partner indulges himself. Moving into the future, the girl's tutor can be seen fooling around with another student as Makoto enters the classroom. Joined by Kokoro, they both hear the most cursed line of dialogue in the entire game. Bonding with his accomplice, the tutor is looking forward to working together. Hoping for a miracle, Kokoro silently asks for help, being met with a sword slash from her older sister. This is where things end, and if you check the title screen afterwards, it's implied that both of the young men were murdered. Karma's a real bitch, and her name is Katsura. Unfortunately, there's one last development worth mentioning. From what I understand, this particular ending, minus the destruction at the end, is somewhat canonical for Kokoro. Overflow bundled another game called Strip Battle Days with this one. It's basically a lewd rock paper scissors kind of thing with some extra story. If you want a real black pill, you'll definitely find it here. With that, we've reached the end, showcasing just about everything that Shiny Days has to offer. True to the series, the game makes for quite the emotional roller coaster. It may not be as violent or cruel as its predecessor in certain aspects, but there's still plenty of drama to make up for that. Of course, those looking for events that push the envelope will certainly find them here. If there's anything to take away from this experience, I suppose the big lesson would be communication is key. If you're having an issue with your partner, maybe just properly talk with them about it. Hell of a concept, I know. It's also a good idea not to automatically assume the worst of someone, especially if they've given no prior reason to doubt them. Aside from that, probably keep a close eye on Makoto, as he's apparently capable of anything now. The game is available on Just USA, so feel free to check it out for yourself if you'd like to see everything that comes with it. Before I end the video, there's something I'd like to address. I've received a lot of individual requests to cover the Cross Days visual novel specifically. Unfortunately, that entry was a Japanese-only release, and as far as I know, a fan translation doesn't exist. I've come across a few subtitled scenes, but it's hard to say if the entire thing follows suit. The games that kick the whole series off also seem to be unavailable. I've spent a long time scouring web pages for anywhere that might have information, but my efforts haven't yielded many results. If anyone has leads on these visual novels, please feel free to hit me up. I'm not the most knowledgeable when it comes to this area of the anime space, so any help would be appreciated. Given what I have seen of these three, we're in for some dark shit if I can manage to do some digging. My curiosity has definitely been piqued, and I'm certainly interested in talking about the other entries if I can get my hands on them. I'm deep in the rabbit hole now, so if you'd like to eventually see more of this degeneracy, I'm willing to continue on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Special thanks to my awesome literary club members, El True Flow,